What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto hates Kushina and Minato and leave village with his wife? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Naruto sat with the others around him, his parents, the other rookies, and the parents of the rookies were all celebrating the success of the graduation of the next generation of shinobi. Kiba would have been there, but his injuries by Naruto during their spar had messed him up pretty badly, and was kept in the hospital for a few days of observation. Tsume sighed when she heard the news, and part of her wanted to see the dumbass of a son she brought into the world so he could learn not to act so stupid like her dumbass of a husband who has the same mindset. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact the man hadn't fled in fear of her wrath, Tsume would have killed him already, and had long since prayed to Kami that her boy didn't inherit that mindset. Sadly, it seemed Kami had other things to do than hear her words. Tsume also realized that as much as she would like to see her son, it just wasn't in her to do it, and decided against it entirely. It seemed harsh, and no doubt Kiba would brashly demand his question be answered on why she didn't come to see him. Why she didn't come down hard on Naruto and try to teach him a lesson on why no one messed with the Inuzuka clan. If anything, Tsume was being far too merciful to her own son to let him recover from his injuries so he could take many more when she got a hold of the baka, and drilled manners back into his head. Even if they left it at a far faster than he received them. Talk about in one ear and out the other, thought Tsume, as she was thinking about her son not being there for the celebration, and no doubt would throw a fit over that too. Tsume-chan, is something wrong? You seem off right now. Is it because of your son? Asked Kushina while Tsume nodded, since there was no point in denying it. I don't know how to handle him, Kushina. On one end, I want to smash his face in, and the other compels me to be merciful because he is my son. I don't want him to cause any problems between your son and cause some kind of feud between our families. With my daughter marrying your son in a few years, the last thing we both want is for my son to do something stupid, and ruin things for us, answered Tsume while keeping the talk to a whispered tone so the others wouldn't hear it. I understand, Tsume-chan. Just handle him as best you can, but make him realize that if he gets out of line with my son, or anyone close to him, there will be no mercy on either end from both our families, replied Kushina with some sympathy to the woman, but also had Tsume realize that the Inuzuka brat was not going to receive mercy, and any hostile move would be his last. I'll try, Kushina, but my son is a hard-headed baka, replied Tsume with a sigh. It will work out, Tsume. One way or another, stated Kushina with Tsume nodding. I hope so, Kushina. My boy is becoming a real problem, said Tsume, as she decided to put her baka for a son out of her mind for now, and focus on the party at hand. Do you know what the team selection are going to be like? Asked Minato to Shikaku, since the man could pretty much predict who was getting paired with who in terms of teams in the past. The next generation of Ino Shikacho has been approved by the Hokage, and with all the extra training they've gotten, the team will be able to keep the enemy guessing. As for the other teams, it could various ways at this point, but given the hostilities between Kiba and your son, I'm willing to wager the two of them will not be on the same team. The same could be said about Sasuke too, so either Hinata, Shino, or Sakura will have to fill the two spots, with the last one being with Kiba and Sasuke. I would imagine Shino will be paired with Naruto, since the Aburame clan has been neutral yet fair to your son in the past, since they know what it is like to be discriminated against on account of what people think of them due to their bloodline. Meaning either Sakura or Hinata will fill in the last spot, with the losing kunoichi being with Kiba and Sasuke, stated Shikaku with Minato sighing, since that did present a problem given how Kiba could be paired with Hinata due to the risk of him doing something inappropriate with her. There was also something about Uchiha Sasuke that made the former Yondaime Hokage watchful of the boy when it came to Hinata. But it's not like he could pair the girl up with her future husband, right? I think Hinata should stay on more as Tsunade's apprentice and only join a genin team when required, while Sasuke and Kiba do the same in providing assistance to the other shinobi teams we have, like Maida Guy's team. The man has a good head on his shoulders and has quite the experienced team under his command. I think Sasuke and Kiba could learn something from them, countered Minato with Shikaku nodding, since that would help diffuse the situation surrounding the tension with Sasuke and Kiba. Meanwhile, Sakura is paired with Naruto, and Shino with their Jounin sensei, making sure the fangirl in her doesn't come out, added Shikaku with Minato nodding with a smile on his face. Exactly. Hinata and the other 3 genin will get their chance to get the needed outside experience when the time is right with other teams we can trust will work well with them. Hinata can work with any of the rookies with the exception of Sasuke and Kiba, with Sakura being neutral for the most part, though I would keep a close eye on her just in the off chance she tries something to get Sasuke's favor, explained Minato with Shikaku nodding. I'll relay your interest in this matter to Tsunade. She'll most likely agree given how your ideas for team selection are solid, explained Shikaku before he left to report this to the Hokage. While this was going on, Naruto was having a good time with the other kids his age, and even with Hana since she wished to join the festivities in order to strengthen the bond she was going to have with her future husband. Hana had spotted a blushing Hinata moving slightly closer to Naruto when the Inuzuka woman sat down near them. It was a subtle hint to Hana that Hinata wasn't going to give any ground to her, and it showed that the Hyuga girl had some backbone. Naruto easily noticed this, but decided to be quiet on the matter since the competition between the two was healthy, and there was no malice in their movements. They were merely staking their claim on him and showing the other that they would not surrender their position in terms of being his wife. Ino herself was quiet on the matter, as she clearly felt neither the right, nor had the might to defend or advance in making claim to him when it came to their arranged marriage. Ino had been mean to him during his early childhood, not through her parents mind you, simply by picking up on it from other children, and no doubt their parents bribing her with treats if she did what was asked of her. Ino had apologized for her behavior and she did mean it, but the guilt of the acts themselves in following what was now considered the bad crowd was still there. Naruto had no doubt the girl would earn the right to hold the position as his wife, but it would require nudging on his part, and those around Ino herself. Not to mention Naruto had sensed a sinister plot aimed at Ino, as he saw the looks the Uchiha had given the platinum blonde girl moments before his arrival, and later after the graduation had ended. If Ino was going to be around the Uchiha for any short or long period of time, Naruto was going to make certain someone he could trust was watching to protect Ino from Sasuke's inevitable actions against the girl should she ever be in a weakened state or caught off guard in a moment where she wasn't expecting it. But that could wait a little longer. Now he was enjoying himself with the others and was not about to have someone like the Uchiha, even if he wasn't here, ruin it for him. Hokage Tower. Minato suggested this? Asked Tsunade, as she heard Shikaku explain to her the reasons behind the genin team selecting process, and had to admit the man had a solid plan in terms of picking teams. Not to mention the Uchiha brat would be upset when hearing he was being benched until further notice while being stuck in the village to train. Yes, while we were all eating. Kiba and Sasuke were both being a pain in the ass earlier, so he doesn't trust them with his son. I also suspect something might happen to Hinata if she is put on a team with them. Sakura will be put on Naruto's team since she's not as weak as she was from the start, but the girl will no doubt make it a serious issue when she learns the Uchiha is in the reserved list, and make some kind of protest over the matter, answered Shikaku with Tsunade scoffing. I don't give a damn if the girl goes on a hunger strike. She'll be on the team I've set for her and like it regardless. Exclaimed Tsunade with Shikaku nodding in agreement. What about Minato and Kushina? They are part of Naruto's fraction and I wondered what would happen if Naruto went on a long distance if not long-term mission outside of Fire Country, questioned Shikaku with Tsunade sighing for a moment. Minato and Kushina explained this to me some time ago after things settled down with Danzo's little rebellion being a complete flop. Fractions are servants to their masters and in this case the master is Naruto with the servants being his parents. The purpose of the fraction is to serve the master in any way that the master sees fit and in our case with Naruto's own parents they will be fiercely loyal to him. Even if he wasn't their son, I have no doubt that they would give their lives for him if given the command, and would obey the boy without question, explained Tsunade with Shikaku nodding. Hypothetically, if someone were to kill Naruto, what would happen to them? Asked Shikaku with Tsunade's eyes narrowing dangerously at her. Tread carefully here Nara-san, said Tsunade with sharp eyes ready to explode with anger at the genius in front of her should he say something stupid the next few seconds. I'm not suggesting anything in terms of foul play on our part Hokage-sama. I'm just wondering what would happen to his parents in the event the boy died, explained Shikaku quickly with Tsunade calming down slightly. Minato and Kushina would survive I imagine. They do have free will of course, so it's not like they would just drop dead like puppets with their strings cut. Though I imagine the loss of their only son would cause them to lash out and possibly bring about the end of the world just to spite everyone alive, answered Tsunade with Shikaku starting to sweat. Well, let us hope that the boy doesn't die anytime soon, stated Shikaku with Tsunade nodding. Yes, let's hope, replied Tsunade simply. What about each team's chosen Jounin sensei? Asked Shikaku curiously. Sarutobi Asuma will be in charge of the next generation of Ino Shikacho, but given his own connection to his father, I will have him secretly watch to make sure he's not like my former sensei, and try to sabotage them. Hitaki Kakashi was going to be the Jounin for Genin Team 7, but I've decided against it, and will assign someone else more suited for the job. Yuhi Kurenai was going to handle Genin Team 8, but given how Hinata is now my apprentice, things have changed, and the ideal tracking team she wanted will be shot to hell, answered Tsunade with Shikaku frowning. Kurenai pushed for Hinata to be on Genin Team 8? Asked Shikaku curiously. She was assigned to watch over Hinata while Hiyashi was busy handling clan duties and couldn't walk with her to the academy. The girl's cousin Neji, who is part of the Hyuga branch family, loathes the girl, and Hiyashi doesn't fully trust the boy enough since Hinata simply refuses to use the cage bird seal. Hence where Kurenai steps in and has acted like a true bodyguard to the girl, answered Tsunade with Shikaku frowning further. The rumors about the woman state she acted like a surrogate mother to the Hyuga girl during that time. To be honest, I disagree with Kurenai being Hinata's Jounin sensei if the girl was on Genin Team 8, replied Shikaku with Tsunade's eyebrow rising. I heard the rumors too and the woman has confessed she felt that way. But why do you disagree with Kurenai being a sensei to Hinata? Asked Tsunade curiously with Shikaku sighing. Troublesome. No offense to Yuhi Kurenai in any aspect of being a shinobi or a woman in general, Hokage-sama, but she would hurt Hinata's growth rather than help it, replied Shikaku with Tsunade frowning. How so? Asked Tsunade with Shikaku sighing again. She'll act more like a loving mother to the Hyuga girl rather than a Jounin sensei. She'll smother her student with too much love and not give the girl the full confidence needed to go beyond limitations. Don't get me wrong, I think Kurenai-san could, and would be a great sensei if it was anyone else. Unfortunately, Hyuga Hinata brings all the motherly instincts out in the woman, and to be honest, Hokage-sama, such instincts have no place in the shinobi world when such a woman is using them in training one of her students on a Genin team, answered Shikaku with Tsunade nodding since Kurenai seemed to have a shaky past when it came to training students individually. Hence why Tsunade thought training 3 of them would be a good experience needed to one day qualify for one-on-one apprenticeship. Now that hope seemed lost to the woman. She won't be happy about this. Kurenai had high hopes in having Hinata on her team and I had hoped it would be a good experience for her professionally, replied Tsunade with Shikaku nodding since he knew of the woman's sketchy past with the Kurama clan. She will understand, Hokage-sama. If she truly cares about Hinata, as an actual person, and wishes to see the Hyuga girl's potential be reached, she will accept your decision, replied Shikaku with Tsunade nodding. I'm confident she will accept it, said Tsunade with Shikaku sighing. To be blunt, I don't share your confidence in this matter, Hokage-sama. Inoichi did a full psyche profile of each potential Jounin sensei for this year's batch of graduates. I suggest you read Kurenai's file before you explain your actions to her in order to reinforce your decision for team selection, replied Shikaku before he produced the file and handed it to the woman before leaving while Tsunade went to handle some last-minute work. Only to be rudely interrupted by a slightly limping Jiraiya and one Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was now walking around on a crutch since his leg was still broken. We need to talk, Tsunade, said Jiraiya with his face full of seriousness. I'm not in the mood to talk to you, pervert. Come back another time. I want to go spend a few hours with my godson while he celebrates his graduation with the other rookies, said Tsunade, as she rose from her seat, and saw Jiraiya was blocking her way. This is about Naruto, explained Jiraiya with Tsunade's eyes narrowing. Make it quick, and this better not be a suggestion to have his abilities sealed away or that he's some kind of threat to Konoha. If you do, those words will be your last, threatened Tsunade while she saw her former teammate and sensei looking a bit tense. It's not about that, Tsunade. I just wanted to warn you about the Akatsuki, replied Jiraiya with Tsunade's eyebrow rising slightly. The Akatsuki? Questioned Tsunade with Jiraiya nodding, and she saw him take a look back at Hiruzen, who nodded before deciding to continue. Yes. A group of S-class missing nin banding together to collect the Biju from each of the Jinchuriki who possess them. Orochimaru himself was one of their members before he left the organization a few years ago after an altercation with Uchiha Itachi occurred sometime after the boy became a member, explained Jiraiya with Tsunade listening a little more intently, though she was clearly skeptical. Really? Well, I'm sure the Akatsuki will be disappointed to hear Naruto is no longer a Jinchuriki of Kyuubi since Kyuubi is dead, so they will have no reason to pursue him, replied Tsunade with Jiraiya shaking his head. If anything, they will come after him to be spiteful. Tsunade. Either that or they might try to take the power he has extracted for their own purposes. As far as this organization is concerned, Naruto is a marked shinobi, and is in danger now more than ever from what my spy told me, explained Jiraiya with Tsunade's eyes narrowing at him. Oh really? Tell me, Jiraiya. Given all that happened to Naruto in the past, if the boy had not done what he did, and lived the life you along with sensei dictated, were you ever going to warn Naruto about this threat to his being? Perhaps you planned to prepare him to fight these shinobi? And if so, when? Questioned Tsunade with Jiraiya sucking in his teeth at her question. The time wasn't right. We felt that the boy needed to bond with his teammates, learn from his Jounin sensei while on his genin team, and eventually learn to control Kyuubi's chakra, answered Hiruzen with Tsunade scoffed at his explanation. If that were true, you would have made sure his education wasn't sabotaged from the start. You wanted him weak enough that he couldn't oppose either of you and yet strong enough to handle the Akatsuki for a time while giving him little to no time to be trained to combat them. You were gambling with his life. My godson's life, exclaimed Tsunade with Jiraiya and Hiruzen frowning at her. He's my godson too. Tsunade, challenged Jiraiya with Tsunade slamming her fist on the desk and making the room shake. Don't you dare say that to me. You abandoned him within days of his birth. And for what? A stupid, unclear, and uncertain prophecy based on a hunch without any proof that Naruto was in fact the child. Yet you treated him like a monster all the same. Like he was a demon. A person infected with a plague could say they were treated better. And now you dump this news on me so you can have some key influence in Naruto's shinobi training. Do you really think I'm that gullible? I know why you want to involve yourself in his life now, and not for all the right reasons. You want him restrained, controlled. You just want to know what kind of skills he possesses so a counter his skills or maybe a jutsu can possibly be developed against them all, so when the time is right you will try to seal his power away. Or maybe just enough to weaken him so the boy dies by your hands like you wanted from the start in a slow, painful, and unforeseeable manner, stated Tsunade with Jiraiya frowning at her with their shared sensei doing the same. The Akatsuki know about him. Tsunade. They will come after Naruto with everything they've got. Only I can properly prepare him for them. There isn't a shinobi alive that can teach the boy how to go up against all of them like I can, and you know it. Challenged Jiraiya with Tsunade smirking now. You haven't been keeping your ear to the floor when it comes to Konoha. It seems your age is catching up with you. Both of you actually, stated Tsunade while seeing the two of them frown at her. What do you mean? Questioned Jiraiya while Tsunade's smirk grew. Your old student and his wife are alive again thanks to Baragan. Didn't you know that? Surely some of the Leaf Shinobi or civilians in Konoha are still loyal to you to the point of coming into your hospital rooms panting from running so fast to tell you the wonderful news, answered Tsunade mockingly with Jiraiya and Hiruzen looking at each other in complete shock. How did this happen? Demanded Jiraiya with Tsunade shrugging. The only one who can really answer that is Baragan-sama, but he merged with Naruto a short time ago, which means you would have to ask the boy himself, and we both know he'd never tell you the truth, much less give an answer you would like hearing. Besides, it can't be duplicated, and no, we won't be trying anytime soon, answered Tsunade with the two men frowning at this news. So Minato and Kushina will be training him, concluded Hiruzen while not liking this news one bit. Correction, old monkey. They already have been training him. Naruto-kun is showing his potential is in fact limitless. They will bring it out fully while the two of you watch from the sidelines and do absolutely nothing. Replied Tsunade with both men now looking to protest this decision. This isn't fair. What about the Toad contract? He needs to sign it. Demanded Jiraiya with Tsunade shrugging again. Take it up with Naruto if you dare, but make no mistake, Jiraiya, the boy will most likely kill you, and sensei here on sight. And even if he doesn't kill you, his parents certainly will before you can get within a mile of him, answered Tsunade with Jiraiya gritting his teeth and Hiruzen scowling further. Minato will understand. He always did and will listen to his sensei. Something you have failed to do with ours from the start. Jiraiya nearly shouted at her and then left with their sensei right behind him. Bastards. Oh well, let them have their hissy fit moment. It's only going to get worse for them when Minato and Kushina see them with the desire to kick their asses, thought Tsunade before she left her office to go see her godson and properly congratulating him on becoming a shinobi. Namikaze Estates sometime later. What do you want, sensei? Demanded Minato, as he saw Jiraiya appear in the front of his home, uninvited with the former Sandaime Hokage, and neither shinobi could believe it. Minato, how is this even possible? Asked Jiraiya while Hiruzen was not so enthusiastic. You would be surprised what my son and his allies can do when given the chance. Not that you would know anything about giving my son a chance, sensei. Answered Minato, as he saw Jiraiya look away, and Hiruzen kept on scowling back at him. We needed your son to be controlled, Minato, in case he was the child of prophecy. The prophecy itself threatens Konoha. It threatens your home, the shinobi way, a way we have lived for years, explained Jiraiya after a moment of silence between them. So my son should suffer? Is it simply because of the prophecy that you did this? Or did you do it because of the Kyuubi? Because of the Biju he once held? Out of some stupid need to get revenge for me over the fact I died saving this miserable village that refused to honor my dying wish. Something I know was made known to the people, but knowing your baka for a sensei, he deliberately spun things in a way that would make the people not honor it, and do the exact opposite. Exclaimed Minato with Jiraiya looking away, since that was exactly how it happened. How was I supposed to react? You were dead, Kushina was dead, and the Kyuubi had just been sealed up in your son. All signs of the boy being the child of prophecy were showing, the village in danger, and I reacted in the best interest of Konoha. You may have been my student, but I stressed the importance of putting the village first, and your family second. That if you had to choose, it was the choice that was for the greater good, and not that of your family, answered Jiraiya with Minato scowling. Yes, you did teach me that, Jiraiya, but I never embraced that part of your teachings to me. What point is there to serving the greater good if your own children suffer for it? In the end, they would hate you, despise you, and resent you for it. The greater good is not worth the sacrifice of your own family. You would agree if you actually had one instead of peeping all the time on women, countered Minato with Jiraiya wincing slightly at the jab. You are the closest thing to family I have, Minato, replied Jiraiya with Minato sneering at him. You lost the right to be a surrogate father to me the moment you betrayed my family for your so-called greater good. I don't even acknowledge you as my sensei either. As far as I'm concerned, Jiraiya, that man I knew is dead and you are just a fraud, stated Minato with Jiraiya looking like he had just been hit hard in the gut by one of Tsunade's super punches. You don't mean that, exclaimed Jiraiya, but Minato's face told him that his former student did indeed mean it, and was moments away from attacking. Get off my property, Jiraiya, and take that crippled old fool with you. Kushina is out with Naruto, but her sensory skills are greater than mine, and she won't be so merciful if your signature is detected by her, commanded Minato, as Kushina along with Naruto were still out, talking with Naruto's favorite people over at the ramen stand, and were no doubt enjoying a couple dozen bowls of the stuff too. Minato secretly dreaded the ramen bill that would come his way. I'm not going anywhere. Not until you agree to let me train your son, stated Jiraiya with Minato scowling at him. Why? He doesn't need any form of teaching you could provide him. Besides, I doubt you would even try to actually teach him anything, and just go about how to best seal away his abilities before trying to manipulate him. I think you would even go so far as to try and manipulate his parents if successful, accused Minato with Jiraiya's eyes flashing with anger. I will fight you, Minato, threatened Jiraiya with Minato scoffing. You can try, Jiraiya, but I long since surpassed you years ago, and with my new abilities I could kick your ass along with your sensei's life at their peak without breaking a sweat, stated Minato with Jiraiya wincing since he wasn't physically 100%. This isn't over, Minato, stated Jiraiya, since he would need to come up with another plan to deal with his former student and his son. Minato watched them go, sighing after they did, and wished his wife was here to unleash that infamous Uzumaki temper on these two idiots. Hokage Tower sometime later. What do you mean I'm not getting the tracking team I wanted? Demanded Kurenai, as she was shocked when the Hokage had denied her the means to not only have the best upcoming tracking team in Konoha, but keep Hinata in reserve to further teach the girl more advanced medical skills, and take her on as an apprentice. Asuma was given the next generation of Ino Shikaku and he was the son of a heartless Sandaime Hokage, so why couldn't she get what her heart desired? It's as I explained before, Kurenai-san. Hinata shows great promise in the medical arts, and I am going to take her on as my apprentice. She will be on reserve for a little while longer until I deem her fit for active duty outside of Konoha's walls, explained Tsunade, with Kurenai scowling and the female Hokage mentally sighed since the report Shikaku left for her to read about Kurenai was not encouraging. Yuhi Kurenai's lack of confidence in teaching solo after the incident with the Kurama clan has left long-lasting mental scars and a blow to her confidence. She will handle her team gently, which in some cases should be done, but not with a tracking team, or with Hyuga Hinata due to the bond the woman wishes to have with her. Kurenai's motherly instincts have awakened in the Hyuga girl on account of the events no doubt seen in the Hyuga compound when dealing with the Hyuga clan head talking poorly about his eldest child. While such compassion is good in the short term of things to help Hyuga Hinata, it cannot be used in training a genin team, and thus will only weaken the team overall. Kurenai will hesitate in training her students properly, afraid she'll hurt or push them too far. She will feel they are fragile like glass and should be handled with care out of fear of them breaking under pressure. At the same time, I've noticed Kurenai's constant aggressive behavior when around male shinobi, who have a tendency to express their male pride to impress others, and some have even tried woo her in a few cases. While this female pride is in fact a way to motive Kurenai to push her genin team, it can in fact be a weakness, as she might feel compelled to send them on a mission they might not be ready for, and all out of pride in wanting to put her male comrades in their place. With the upcoming Chunin exams happening in a few months, I would expect the various Jounin senseis assigned will try to nominate their students regardless if they are ready for them, and Kurenai will be no different since she would be one of the few kunoichi to take on a genin team. It is my personal recommendation that while Kurenai is qualified to be a Jounin sensei with what experience she has in being a Jounin of Konoha, it would be best if she did not have the tracking team desired by herself, and that the woman be given an alternate team so more effort on her part is applied. If Yuhi Kurenai is kept in her own comfort zone, with the students she wants with the tracking team she wants, the team itself will not grow with each individual genin not reaching their full potential, and that could lead to future problems if not addressed now. But it's the best tracking team you could ever hope for, and I'm the best Jounin around to train them to further enhance that team dynamic. How many battles has Konoha won from tracking teams scouting ahead and learning of enemy advances? They can find the best places to set up camp in strategic terrain where our forces could defend themselves or even go on the attack when required. I can do that with them, exclaimed Kurenai, with the woman in front of her not liking how the Jounin was nearly in her leader's face. I seem to recall several over-specialized tracking teams Konoha had getting decimated in a fight or when caught. They were all speed and sight with no combat strength to their names. How many shinobi did we lose? Most were killed, others were captured, tortured for information, and some of them broke because they had no resistance to it. You are asking for an over-specialized team, Kurenai-san. I've seen enough of them during the last shinobi war to know they aren't worth the loss of such promising shinobi, and let's not forget these genin you're requesting are all clan heirs. If they were ever in trouble, caught by enemy shinobi, they would be dragged back to enemy villages, and used to reproduce their clan bloodline there in order to use such offspring to press for clan jutsus here via the political arena while making up any excuse they want on how they got such bloodlines on their side, countered Tsunade with Kurenai scowling. Then I request you at least give me Hinata to train personally in my art. I can help her in my field of genjutsu just as much as you can in your field in being a medic nin Hokage-sama, offered Kurenai, with Tsunade shaking her head. Denied. Inuzuka Kiba and Uchiha Sasuke are also benched given how their past actions leave much to be desired. I'm having those two being trained together with Maida Guy's students. Instead, you can have the honor of training Haruno Sakura, Aburame Shino, and Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Something I know Kakashi here is unhappy about since he wanted the team very badly, though I'm denying it for the obvious reasons we all know exist. Besides, I need him on standby to teach the Uchiha if and when the brat awakens those damn Sharingan eyes, said Tsunade with Kurenai gritting her teeth. I respectfully decline Hokage-sama. I refuse to be Jounin sensei for that team. Hitaki Kakashi can have them for all I care, replied Kurenai with Asuma looking shocked by this and Tsunade herself raising a single eyebrow. Just like that? You refuse to be the Jounin sensei of 2 clan heirs with one being my godson? The girl is an Uchiha fangirl, but I thought you of all kunoichi would enjoy beating that part out of her so she'd take this lifestyle seriously, and not act like a damsel in distress while hoping someone like the Uchiha would save her, said Tsunade since she knew Kurenai like most kunoichi, who took this life seriously, hated fangirls, and tried to push for some kind of academic reform to stomp such things out for years. The Aburame boy is more insect-related and the Haruno girl is a fangirl. Anything I teach her will go in one ear and out the other, explained Kurenai with Tsunade's eyes now narrowing dangerously. And my godson? Considering he is the son of a Hokage, many Jounin would jump at the chance to teach him something, and make themselves famous, responded Tsunade with Kurenai stiffening a little. I can't teach him anything and I doubt my skills in genjutsu hold any real value to him, answered Kurenai though her voice was a bit shaky. Is that it, or do you dislike him for the fact he will one day marry Hyuga Hinata in a few years? Don't bother to deny it, Kurenai-san. I know you have a motherly attachment to Hinata and I know you are one of the people who lost your family to Kyuubi all those years ago, stated Tsunade with Kurenai looking away. He's not worthy of Hinata. The brat doesn't even know her. For all you know, the brat is secretly a pervert of the highest level rivaling your old teammate, and will force Hinata to do lewd perverse things for his amusement, replied Kurenai with Tsunade narrowing her eyes at the Jounin. Don't you ever compare my godson to that asshole again, Kurenai-san. As for getting to know your former charge, I have it on good authority that Naruto is interested in her and has been getting to know her. In fact, Naruto is getting to know all his future wives now so they can have a strong healthy bond for when they all tie the knot, and form a strong family relationship, said Tsunade with Kurenai taking a step back from her out of self-preservation. I'm sorry Hokage-sama, but I believe the standards for any boy being worthy of Hinata are too high for someone like Naruto to reach, and the only reason he's marrying her is because of the entity that once possessed him, replied Kurenai with Tsunade letting out a growl. You can have standards that are rivaled by Kami himself, but make no mistake when I tell you that boy has been through pure hell, and don't you forget about the suffering my godson went through because bigots got their way up until recently. I would have hoped a woman with such a loving nature toward Hinata would give something similar to the boy who will one day be her future husband. Tsunade shot back with Kurenai looking away. You were mistaken Hokage-sama, replied Kurenai with Tsunade shaking her head in disappointment. Fine. Fortunately, I anticipated this action thanks to reliable sources, and have a suitable replacement to take the job in the event this happened, said Tsunade while waving the now shocked woman away. What? Who do you have that could possibly train this team? Questioned Kurenai since it was clear she had believed Tsunade would make some kind of concession to her in exchange for some form of moderate cooperation. A friend of yours and fellow kunoichi. Mitarashi Anko, replied Tsunade, as she saw Kurenai look at her in shock, and gapping like a fish in water. Anko? But she's never taught anyone in her life. She's not qualified, exclaimed Kurenai with Tsunade raising an eyebrow at her. I think she is more than qualified. She can track, capture, interrogate, and while I loathe her sensei with all my being, he did a good job teaching the woman many things. She won't pull punches or sugarcoat the truth when things need to be spoken. Besides, I think Anko would make a fine Jounin sensei, and just needs to be given the chance. Something this village has not done for either her or Naruto while the former is long overdue for it, answered Tsunade with Kurenai scowling. Anko would never agree to this, replied Kurenai with Tsunade smirking at her. Actually, she already did. I told her earlier today, stated Tsunade while Kurenai's jaw dropped at this news. This was all a test, wasn't it? Accused Kurenai with Tsunade shrugging. For the most part. To be honest, I was going to assign you as Jounin sensei to Kiba and Sasuke so they could get some additional training outside of Guy's team when they are on a mission of their own. However, your actions here today have just shown me that you're not fit to be a Jounin sensei just yet, and won't be teaching anyone for an unknown period of time, answered Tsunade with Kurenai looking like her world had just been destroyed. You can't do this, exclaimed Kurenai with Tsunade shaking her head. I can and I will. Now all of you leave. Asuma, I expect a report on your team's progress every week. What you plan on teaching them, and what they have succeeded in learning from your teaching. You understand me? Do not screw up their training, commanded Tsunade with Asuma nodding while trying to keep himself from sweating. Yes, Hokage-sama, replied Asuma before he and the others left the room. I can't believe her, exclaimed Kurenai once they got out of the tower. Yes, I agree, replied Kakashi simply while reading his book. Shut up, pervert. We both know you don't care, replied Kurenai with a scowl on her face. True, replied Kakashi before he went off in another direction. I don't suppose you want to explain to me what happened in that office? Asked Asuma with Kurenai giving him a glare since she felt cheated out of the team she wanted while he got the team he wanted. And he was the son of the Sandaime Hokage. Leave me alone, exclaimed Kurenai before she went off to go drown her sorrows at home in private. Academy roof with Jounin Team 7 a few days later. Okay you three, my name is Mitarashi Anko. I'm your Jounin sensei for Jounin Team 7 from here on out and I will be expecting each of you to give this lifestyle as a shinobi your all. No doing things halfway and then quitting like some chicken shit pansy simply because it's too hard. Got it? Good. Now, as all Jounin senseis normally do, we usually tell our Jounin something about us. But I'm not like others so we're going to skip that for now, and we're only sharing stuff about each other if we want to share stuff, said Anko, as she sat down with her first ever Jounin team, and gave them a mental once-over in her mind while taking. Aburame Shino was clan heir to the Aburame clan, could communicate with his hive of insects, calm, stoic, kept his emotions in control, and embraced the way of logic. Silent, a bit creepy in certain aspects, but Anko knew the boy wasn't a cruel kid, who would use his bugs to scare people, or have them attached to food people were eating. Which was a plus since Anko didn't want them hovering over her dango or anything else she partakes in eating. She also knew the kid's belief in logic was matched by his high intellect, which was almost as high as the Nara's own, but kept quiet about it, and would only speak when necessary. Haruno Sakura was a fangirl if there ever was one and loved the Uchiha prick regardless of how he acted around others. Anko knew that even with all the intense training done during the crash course a short while back, the pink-haired girl was still more focused on getting the attention the Uchiha than focusing on training, and knew Sakura was starting to slack off again only a few days after her graduation. Anko had already expressed her dislike in having the girl on this team, but Tsunade explained there was no alternative, and would just have to take this as a challenge. As for Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, it was no secret that Anko had long since respected the boy before the events of his life changed when putting on that crown, and had even watched out for him secretly in the past. She would have done more, but her own past kept nipping at her heels. The threats of the council's retaliation against any who helped the now red-haired boy would have made living in the village worse. So she had to help when possible, as rare as those moments were, and kept herself from being seen by other shinobi walking around taking great pleasure in seeing the boy abused by mobs. After the incident with the scroll of sealing, she saw Baragan had laid down the age-old law of might equals right, and you couldn't get much mightier than that cruel entity. After Baragan merged with Naruto, the boy himself continued to follow that path, but did so with honor and dignity that told her the Namikaze wouldn't abuse it. And now here he was on her Jounin team. If that is the case, sensei, then logic dictates we begin doing missions for the village, and expanding our teamwork in the process, said Shino calmly with Anko grinning. Correct. Normally, we would do D-ranked missions to expand that teamwork, but after much talk with the Hokage, we both feel this team doesn't need it so much as it needs the old-fashioned out-in-the-field experience, and so that's what we're going to do. Besides, I've always felt D-ranked missions made the civilian populace fat and lazy because they don't want to do the work themselves. We shinobi earn our bread and butter doing the more aggressive stuff like escorting, protecting, guarding, stealing, and of course killing people when required. The greater the danger, the bigger the pay we get from the client, and don't think that the rank of the mission can't change because it has on multiple occasions. It has, and many shinobi have either been severely injured, crippled, or killed as a result of such changes, replied Anko with Shino nodding along with Naruto doing the same. Sakura looked a big green in the face. What is our first mission? Asked Naruto with Anko grinning. Well, personally, I prefer that you get your feet wet all the way up to your knees, but the Hokage feared I would make you lose your minds and go insane if not quit being a shinobi. So, with that stipulation in mind, we're going to just get this team's feet wet up to our ankles by just doing a simple C-ranked mission to Wave Country and escorting our client to his home there, answered Anko while the Aburame and Namikaze nodded since they felt the best kind of experience was hands-on experience. Sakura looked unsure. When do we meet the client? Asked Shino curiously. Tomorrow morning at the North Gate. The client's name is Tazuna. He's been told who to expect and has been reassured by the Hokage that he's getting the best team around to get him back to Wave Country in one piece. He's an old guy who loves to drink, so expect to meet a grouchy old guy with a hangover tomorrow and don't be late. You don't show up, you don't go, and you don't get paid. Answered Anko with the genin in front of her nodding before they left after she dismissed them. You are giving them a C rank right off the bat? Asked Kurenai, as she appeared behind her friend turning around, and smiled a somewhat friendly smile. What? They're big kids now. The Aburame has a good head on his shoulders, and do I really have to ask about a certain red-haired Namikaze? Answered Anko with Kurenai scowling. And the girl? Asked Kurenai since Anko left out Sakura. She needs a strong kick in the ass. How else am I supposed to get the fangirl stomped out of her? Through a few lectures? A little training, which let's face it will count for nothing if she doesn't maintain a strong regiment? Or perhaps I should smother the pink-haired girl with motherly affection? That's not my style, nor should it be yours either, Kurenai, answered Anko with Kurenai scowling. You don't know if they will work well together as a team, Anko. You had to give them a teamwork-based exercise, replied Kurenai, knowing all other Jounin that took on the role of sensei did. And you do? As I recall, you specifically wanted one person among three on a tracking team to teach that would have been of your own creation. The Hyuga girl does not need to be smothered with love, Kurenai. Putting her on a team with a horny mutt and stoic bug user won't bring out the girl's potential with you watching over her like a worried parent rather than a competent sensei. She needs middle ground, and Tsunade can give it with the needed field experience when required, answered Anko with Kurenai scowling. She's fragile, Anko. Her father and family put her down all the time, calling her a failure and putting Hinata under my care during the time she learned at the academy. How can I not feel concerned for her? Countered Kurenai with Anko scoffing. Please, she's not made of glass that with one touch will fall over and shatter into a few hundred pieces. Sure, she needs a good motivational kick in the butt, but nothing too hard or too soft to get the girl moving in the right direction. You're so used to seeing the frail Hyuga girl escorted to the academy that you don't see the potential everyone else sees in her. I can see it, Tsunade sees it, Naruto sees it, and even the boy's parents can it in her, so why can't you? Stated Anko with Kurenai growling in anger. It's all that boy's fault, mumbled Kurenai while looking away with Anko hearing her. You're blaming Naruto? Seriously? Questioned Anko with Kurenai scowling back at her. Why not? His actions have made Hinata more daring, more bold. She's not the daring or bold type. He's filled her head with delusions of grandeur, believing she can overcome impossible odds, and with their marriage in a few years' time, she'll be utterly ruined. Kurenai replied furiously while Anko was shocked the woman would say such a thing. And you prefer the alternative? A shy, meek, and scared of her own shadow kind of girl with a family that will walk all over her? To be like that around a so-called family that was, until a few months ago, just itching to put that cage bird seal on her forehead, and make life even worse for her? Naruto inspired her, still inspires her to get stronger. Why would you want her to be meek, shy, and all that other wallflower girl crap? Countered Anko with Kurenai walking over to the railing. I just don't want her to be hurt, Anko. I don't want her to be unhappy, answered Kurenai with Anko scoffing. If that were really true, Kurenai, you wouldn't blame Naruto for the changes in her, and you would not smother the Hyuga girl in surrogate motherly love. You see the little bird trying to fly away from the nest, and deep down you don't want her to go because you fear she will never come back to visit the surrogate mother who nurtured her, replied Anko with Kurenai's head turning quickly to glare at her. She's not ready to fly away. Not yet, stated Kurenai firmly with Anko smirking. Well, whether you think she's ready or not to fly, I think we both know the Hyuga girl has flown away and plans to one day make a nest of her own with the help of another bird with Namikaze blood in his veins, remarked Anko while Kurenai felt her scowl increase. He's not worthy of her in any sense of the word regardless if the Kyuubi was sealed in him, said Kurenai with Anko raising an eyebrow at her. Oh really? Well, who the hell is worthy of her? Some snooty noble? A daimyo's son? Questioned Anko with Kurenai not answering. Just keep the boy on a leash, Anko, and remind him to keep his perverted urges at bay or I will find a way to castrate him, replied Kurenai before she left. Perverted urges? She should be more worried about me giving into such urges with him in a few years. Anko mumbled to herself before she let out a small giggle, knowing that Naruto would be quite the hunk when he became a full-grown adult. The next day. So this is my protection detail I hired? You don't really look like much. Especially the pink-haired girl. She stands out like a sore thumb with that hair color, said Tazuna with Sakura looking upset at being insulted while Naruto and Shino ignored it since they did not care for the client's opinion. Anko just smirked. Don't let their appearance throw your belief in us off. The one with dark shades comes from a clan well respected and feared for their mastery over insects. The redhead here can practically be considered overkill if you only knew what his power was capable of and actually feel sorry for any poor bastards that get in his way, remarked Anko with Tazuna raising an eyebrow. And what about you? You're not exactly dressed in what many would consider shinobi attire, replied Tazuna with Anko grinning further. Let's just say if we do run across any danger and need to get questions out of those we capture, I'm the woman to do it, said Anko confidently with Tazuna raising an eyebrow further. Hey, what about me, sensei? Questioned Sakura with Anko turning to look at her. You have yet to prove yourself, brat. You were trying to impress an Uchiha with your looks rather than actually training to be a shinobi. This mission will give you the chance to impress me with your skills, so if I were you I'd make sure to not fuck it up because you won't get a second chance, stated Anko with Sakura flinching at her words. Yes, sensei, replied Sakura with Anko looking at her for a second. Okay, is everyone packed with their essential traveling gear? Good, move out, said Anko with the group in front of her nodding and following the woman to wave. Hey Gaki, why do you walk with a cane? Some kind of past injury? Asked Tazuna with Naruto smirked at him. Hardly. Though I will admit I should probably be dead or at the hospital in a coma after all the crap I've been through. The cane is my weapon of choice when in combat, replied Naruto with Tazuna raising an eyebrow in disbelief. No offense kid, but canes only work so well before someone with muscles, and a strong enough sword slices it in two, countered Tazuna with Naruto letting out a chuckle. There is more to this cane than meets the eyes, sir. Trust me. You may have heard all the stories of shinobi doing incredible things, yet you haven't seen what this item in my hand can do, and should pray that such an event never happens, replied Naruto with a grin on his face. Why is that? Asked Tazuna curiously. Because then you would look upon the face of death should I unleash my full power, and even then the release of such power might kill you, answered Naruto cryptically while Tazuna looked a bit worried, yet a hint of disbelief, and yet something told the old man this boy was telling the truth. Weird kid, thought Tazuna since he didn't understand half of what shinobi could do and decided to leave it alone for now. As the group walked for a few hours, Naruto glanced at a nearby puddle, which was a bit of a surprise since there was no rain in the area for several days, and no sign of anything remotely causing such a puddle in sight. It was like the puddle had magically manifested itself and was just sitting there doing nothing. Or at least that is what it would like to the untrained eye. Naruto knew better. His powers of sensory perception and shinobi training told him otherwise. The puddle was no puddle at all, but rather a genjutsu of sorts to hide a pair of assassins in waiting, and itching to strike if the hint of bloodlust leaking around them was any indication. Glancing at Shino, the Aburame noticed it too, and nodded slightly to not give away the fact that he knew the truth. Anko clearly knew as well, as her lip twitched in a way that told Naruto she was suppressing the smile that wanted to manifest over the joy of hurting people coming after the client. Sakura seemed oblivious to it while chatting with the client about his home and acted like this was a simple trip to visit a relative. After the group got 10 feet from the puddle, it soon shifted to reveal a masked missing nin with gauntlets in his hands followed by another, who looked like his twin standing next to him, and the two leapt into the air to target Anko. The woman leapt out of the way, into the tree. Shino grabbed the client, and dove for the nearby bushes. Sakura drew a kunai from her holster. Apparently not the scared fangirl Anko thought she was, so that was encouraging, and as for Naruto, He just stood there looking at the two missing nin currently encircling him with their razor-sharp chain linked to one of their gauntlets. Their plan was clear in using the chain, their speed, and momentum to rip the Namikaze to shreds in a horrifying gory fashion. A good combination of teamwork on their part, as they were taught during their years at Mist Shinobi Academy despite the means that was required to graduate and become a shinobi in the first place. However, no amount of teamwork could prepare these two for Naruto and his hollow powers given to him by Baragan. First, he let the chain wrap around him, let the two missing nin think they had succeeded in killing him, ignored Sakura shouting at him to use the kawarmi to escape, and then watched the chain snap from the strain they put on it along with themselves from all that momentum they used to make it happen. They damn near lost their arms from the sudden yank back when the chain reached its limit in being pulled before the chain broke. The two shinobi looked at each other in shock for a moment, wondering how the red-haired boy survived the chain's razor's edge from obliterating him, and decided to move to Plan B. The one behind Naruto moved for the client while the other moved for the red-haired boy, with each attacker using the gauntlets as the means to end the lives of their targets. Shino quickly called his bugs out to swarm around him in a way that would shock and even terrify the missing nin from Mist for a moment long enough for the Abarame's swarm to attack. The insects swarmed over the attacker, devouring his chakra quickly, and bringing him to the point of falling unconsciousness. As for the second one, who went after Naruto, he found himself missing his strike aimed at the boy's head, and was promptly elbowed in the face with his body being sent flying into a nearby tree. Before the man even had a chance of getting up, Naruto was in front of him in a second, and was hit viciously again in the face with the boy's cane while a foot was on the hand with the gauntlet. Well done you two. Same to you Sakura. Stance is defensive, weapon drawn, and your eyes are surprisingly sharp. There is still hope for you yet, replied Anko before leaping from her perch and threw the missing nin from Mist over to where Naruto had the other one pinned. I don't want to disappoint you Anko-sensei, answered Sakura with Anko looking at her for a moment before focusing on their two attackers. Okay you two bakas, who do you work for? Questioned Anko with the one pinned by Naruto glaring at her. Fuck you bitch, maybe if you blow me I might drop a hint, replied the missing nin with Anko grinning all too sweetly at him. Naruto, be a good student, and stomp this explosive tag in my hand down on this guy's crotch, said Anko with Naruto grinning too. Wait, don't do that, I want to have kids someday, protested the downed shinobi in a panic. You should have answered my sensei's question. To be honest, you're getting off easy compared to what she can really do, and don't forget about me. As cruel as my sensei is when it comes to these matters, I'm respectfully much worse, replied Naruto with the missing nin looking from him to Anko, who just smirked with a brief nod, and it made the former shinobi from Mist start to panic further. Wait, spare me and my brother. I'll tell you anything and everything you want to know, exclaimed the missing nin from Mist with Naruto looking at Anko who nodded in approval at the offer though she clearly wanted to see someone get their nuts blown off. Talk or my student here does something unimaginable and horrifying to your manhood, commanded Anko before the missing nin from Mist, now identified by name as Maizu, who was one of the two demon brothers, explained they were hired by Gato to kill the bridge builder and prevent the completion of a massive bridge that connected the island country to the mainland. Why was Gato doing it? Because the ruthless businessman was suffocating the country using his shipping company to monopolize what came in or out while crushing the life of the people in the process. If the bridge is completed, Gato's hold is broken, and Wave Country would be free from his tyranny. Well, this day is just full of surprises, remarked Naruto while Sakura was tying the two missing nin up. Yep, this mission just went from C rank to A rank with this new information. Instead of protecting the client from mere bandits, we now have to protect the old man from high-level shinobi, and since the bingo book has these two having been known for partnering up with another missing nin. This changes things for us, answered Anko before looking over at Tazuna, who was currently pale in the face, and clearly knew what it meant. Higher-ranked mission meant higher the pay was required by the client to be given to the shinobi guarding the client to continue going through with the mission. No cash, no protection. Please, you have to understand. My country is poor, just like he said. All I could afford was the C-rank escort. I just need your help getting back home so I can build the bridge so our country's economy can jumpstart itself, said Tazuna with Anko looking at her students. Well, what do you three think? keep going? Or leave the old man high and dry? Asked Anko with Tazuna looking ready to get on his knees and beg them. I say we keep going. We're more than qualified for this regardless of our age. Besides, this Gato guy sounds like someone I should hate with all my being, and should kill on sight regardless if I get paid for it, answered Naruto since this cruel businessman used his money to buy power. But the truth was in the red-haired boy's mind was power could not be bought, and had to be earned. At best, Gato could rent such power to those interested in money, but he could never buy it and would never be powerful in his own right. In Naruto's mind, he was a false king claiming a country that was not his to take. I agree with my comrade. It is illogical to go back now when we have already made so much progress in such a short amount of time. We know who the enemy is and who his employer is too. I say we proceed, stated Shino with Naruto giving him a nod of respect at his words. I say we should go. The country is suffering and I can't back out now simply because the rank has gone up, answered Sakura with her answer surprising Naruto and Anko since they didn't expect it. This is a bit unexpected. Since when did you decide to do the opposite of a fangirl? Questioned Anko with suspicion while Sakura looked away. You said I had to prove myself to you. We both know that if I back out now I'll prove I'm worthless and unfit to be a Konoha shinobi, answered Sakura with Anko narrowing her eyes at her further. What is going on here? She shouldn't be acting like this so suddenly. Not to mention her interaction with Naruto has been civil. No glaring, no name-calling. Something is off about her, thought Anko before glancing at Naruto, who nodded slightly, and knew that they would get to the bottom of this soon enough. For now they had a mission to complete. With the demon brothers tied up, Naruto had opened up a telepathic link to his father, which he learned to possess during his time training with his parents, given the unique situation that caused both of his parents to have it, and told the former Yondaime of what was going on. Minato's first instinct was to provide his son with backup with himself and Kushina, but Naruto told him no, and just told the man to pick up the demon brothers before informing the Hokage so she was brought up to date on the matter. After he gave his father and mother reassurance, Naruto focused on the road in front of him, and even to the pink-haired girl walking to the right of Tazuna. Since that morning, the girl's behavior was off, different than usual, and not once did she glare at him. By all accounts, Sakura should have done that, or at the very least called him a baka once during this entire trip. Yet she was respectful, showed resolve, and acted like a shinobi should in a situation like they just encountered. Naruto quickly came to the conclusion that this girl on their team was not one Haruno Sakura. Focusing his pesquisa on the girl, Naruto narrowed his eyes, and gripped his cane tighter while they walked. Looking over at Shino, it was clear from the subtle frown on the Abarame's usually stoic face that he came to the same conclusion, and the two looked over to Anko with the woman nodding in agreement. This was not Haruno Sakura at all. It was an impostor. But how to expose the impostor? Do it right now? In front of the client? No. That would be a stupid and amateurish move on their part since it would just make Tazuna think that Konoha had disorganized shinobi. Granted, Naruto along with Anko thought most of the shinobi in Konoha were idiots for their bigoted ways with Shino agreeing from a logical standpoint on past behavior. But if Tazuna could make other potential clients think all Konoha shinobi didn't know their head from their ass, and that was unacceptable. So with the same mentality, the trio agreed that they would expose this false Sakura after getting to Wave Country, and get an explanation on why this shinobi was impersonating the pink-haired girl. If by some chance the enemy shinobi they would no doubt encounter forced her hand, the better it was for them because it gave the trio the excuse to confront the impostor, and find out what happened to the real Sakura. They would decide to wait. Elsewhere, those two you sent after the bridge builder failed their mission Zabuza. You and your shinobi aren't worth the price I'm paying, complained Gato while in Zabuza's current hideout. Zabuza's response? Pointing his giant sword at Gato's face. Watch it, pal. You think my price is high? Try going to Kumo, Suna, or any of the other villages. My fee is small compared to them. Besides, the idea of having a hand in making an entire country suffer and die via your shrewd business practices will make their cages hesitant to even act. Hell, some of them might even try to assassinate you just to get some future clients, or simply because they don't like you, answered Zabuza, as he didn't like the man right now, and it was only because the money was needed did the demon of the bloody mist stay his sword hand. Be as that may, I'm still paying you quite a hefty sum, and I expect positive results. Now Tazuna's escort will be on alert for future attacks and might even stay to protect the old fool until the bridge is built. If that happens, my control over this country will be ruined, and you don't get paid," exclaimed Gato with Zabuza narrowing his eyes at him. "I know what will happen, Gato. I don't need a seedy, shrewd, tight-fisted businessman like you telling me things I already know. Trust me, the game isn't over yet. We've only just begun to fight," stated Zabuza before turning to look at his masked subordinate, who just nodded to him in knowing what to do, and the demon of the bloody mist smirked behind his bandages. The enemy won the first round. Now it was time for round 2. With Anko and Team 7. "So that's the bridge?" asked Naruto while seeing the massive incomplete construction project Tazuna was put in charge of that would bring hope to his dying country. "Yeah, is it something? Once completed, our country will have a chance to become strong again, and life will return once more," answered Tazuna, as he along with his escort, and the boatmen slowly ferrying them across the large body of water made their way in wave country. "That is the next logical step, but why hasn't Gato destroyed the bridge using his less than honorable employees?" asked Shino curiously. "Because he doesn't want to attract unwanted attention. Killing a few people inside the country is easy to sweep under the rug with enough money and influence. But if he blew it up, something like that can't be ignored, and word would reach other countries. He would risk notice from shinobi villages, daimyos, rival businesses, and cause a whole slew of problems that no amount of money can stop," answered Anko, as she knew that if Gato did destroy the bridge at this late in the game, it would draw a lot of eyes toward him, and wave country's economic plight. "She's right. Destruction of this thing on any scale turns heads and inquiries are made into what is going on here in this section of the world," added Naruto while glancing at the fake Sakura next to him to see her looking at the bridge yet keeping quiet. Again it was unlike the Sakura he and the others knew. "How far away is your house, Tazuna-san?" asked Sakura, curiously. "It's not that far from the bridge. A few miles past it actually. It's by the water, so if Gato were to try anything, I could get my family out of the country, and onto the mainland," answered Tazuna with the group nodding. "We're almost there, Tazuna. It's fortunate that Gato's boat patrols haven't come this way yet," said the boatman carrying them across the mist-filled area. "Yes, fortunate," remarked Naruto with narrowed eyes. "We're expected," thought Anko and Shino. Roughly 20 minutes later, the group disembarked from the boat, the ferryman paid, and they were soon on their way to Tazuna's house. Along the way, the group noticed it was extremely quiet, too quiet for their liking, and they knew something or someone was here waiting for them. Bringing out a kunai, Naruto threw it into a nearby bush several feet ahead of them, hearing the sound of movement behind it, and upon inspection found a single scared white bunny. "Your sensory ability seems off today, Naruto-san," said Shino while Anko picked up the bunny to examine it. "No, I sensed someone there. It was a person, not an animal. Whoever was there used substitution to escape the kunai," replied Naruto with Anko nodding. "He's right. This is a winter coat for a bunny in winter, but it's spring right now, and all wild bunnies in spring should have brown coats," added Anko with Naruto nodding. "That means this bunny is domesticated," stated Sakura, with Anko narrowing her eyes at the impostor. Not once has she even yelled at Naruto for his actions with the bunny. She is acting so calm and completely professional. Not one single action of a fangirl, thought Anko, as she looked from Sakura to the bunny, and was trying to figure things out while putting the animal in a storage scroll. Before the whistling sound of a projectile was heard behind them. "Down!" yelled Naruto with Anko, Shino, Sakura, and Tazuna obeying the command while the Namikaze himself grabbed the projectile with his bare hand before throwing it into a distant tree. The projectile in question? It was a giant sword. A Zanbato to be exact. Impressive, kid. Not many shinobi can do what you just did. In fact, you would be the first person I know to even do that, stated a gruff voice of a shirtless man with bandages on his face and wearing grayish camouflage pants while standing on the hilt of his sword. "You should see me birthday parties," commented Naruto with the figure smirking at him. "What's your name, brat?" asked the figure. "Naruto. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha." "What's yours?" answered Naruto with the figure's eyes widening slightly. "Zabuza. Momochi Zabuza, formerly of Mist," replied Zabuza with Anko's eyes widening in shock, and she tensed at the sight of him. "The demon of the bloody mist. Master of the silent killing technique," stated Anko with Zabuza smirking at her. So you know of my reputation, replied Zabuza with a hint of pride in his voice. Difficult not to considering what you did to become a shinobi. What you did at the Mist Academy was overkill even by their standards, stated Anko with Zabuza's smirk getting bigger behind his bandages. It's ironic when you consider the only way to pass the exam is to kill a fellow student in combat. I got a lot of extra credit that day, replied Zabuza with a small chuckle from his mouth. Clearly, I take you are under Gato's employ, stated Naruto with Zabuza nodding. Correct. Gato wants the bridge builder dead. Hand over the old man and I'll spare all of your lives, offered Zabuza with Naruto scoffing at him. No deal, replied Naruto with Zabuza smirking at him. Good. I was hoping to get in a few kills this week, remarked Zabuza before he dropped down to the ground with his sword in hand with his killer intent flooding the area around him. Protect the bridge builder, commanded Anko with her Jounin team moving into triangle formation around the old man. So pointless, remarked Zabuza, as he was between Tazuna and Sakura with his sword ready to slice the old man in two. Only to miss the man completely along with the others a second later. Care to rethink that statement? Questioned Naruto, as he used Sonido to save his team, and the client from being sliced in two. You're fast, kid. That was unnatural, stated Zabuza with Naruto smirking. At least you're original in how you described me just now. At least it's not as negative as you could have made it sound, countered Naruto with Zabuza narrowing his eyes. Those eyes. They're the same as, thought Zabuza before his instincts screamed at him to move and dodged an incoming projectile of energy from Naruto if just barely. Good instincts. Aside from my parents, no one has ever dodged my bala before today. Though something tells me that was a luck, said Naruto with his hand outstretched and saw Zabuza look at the damage the boy's projectile did. That attack tore through the trees like they were nothing. If I didn't move, I'd be dead, thought Zabuza knowing he had to get serious here. Damn, I don't know what this Gaki just did, but I'm so glad I hired his team, thought Tazuna while slightly wondering if he should actually stop drinking just to make sure that his mind wasn't playing tricks on him. Hidden mist jutsu, stated Zabuza, as he covered the entire area in a heavy mist, and vanished from sight. Careful, Momochi Zabuza can use this to kill us all with ease without making a sound, stated Anko with her team being on guard while Tazuna began to sweat. How very true. I've used this particular jutsu on many occasions and some of my easier kills were always in places where mist was a general occurrence that no one suspected it was created for the purpose of bringing about instant death, replied Zabuza while letting his voice echo around them so they couldn't pinpoint his location. So how do we stop him if we can't even see him? Asked Sakura, before the presence of Zabuza was behind her and could feel his breath on her neck. You can't, answered Zabuza before swinging his blade down on the girl in the belief that one less Jounin was one less defense standing in his way. Clang, only to be stopped by Naruto's own weapon that was his Zanpakuto that was in the form of a double-edged battle axe was being held in the hand of his outstretched right arm. Care to try again, offered Naruto, as he was easily held the weapon in its position, and it was even more impressive given how it was holding back Zabuza's blade too. This Gaki isn't natural, thought Zabuza before he was stabbed by Anko with one of her kunai. And turned into a puddle of water. He was a water clone, exclaimed Anko in surprise with Zabuza appearing behind her. Yes, he was, stated Zabuza before he swung his blade and aimed to take the kunoichi's head off. Only for Anko to duck and kicked him in the stomach. You won't get me that easily, stated Anko before the Zabuza she hit turned into water. He must have a large source of water nearby to make them so easily. To draw them out without a water supply is draining, deduced Shino since he had read up on water clones and the drawbacks of using them. I think it's time Zabuza realized just who it is he's dealing with, remarked Naruto while Anko nodded in agreement since it was her time to get more active in the fight. She decided to use her acute sense of smell akin to that of snakes she had developed from years of training along with her connection to the snakes themselves. In a way, Anko had to thank her bastard of a former sensei that was Orochimaru for the training she had that even made this possible, and was able to pinpoint Zabuza through the thickness of the mist. Hidden shadow snake hands, called out Anko, as she launched her snakes from the sleeve of her trench coat toward Zabuza, and they quickly tried to bite into him. Damn it, it seems Orochimaru of the Sanin's former student can wield snakes just like him, thought Zabuza while dodging each snake, chopping their heads off, and trying to get close to target the bridge builder. Only to find himself surrounded by bugs thanks to the Aburame and that were draining him of his chakra. Cursing further, Zabuza ducked into a barrel roll to dodge Naruto's weapon of choice aiming to cut off his head, and began fighting the red-haired boy with his own weapon. It was clear to the former mist shinobi from the start that Naruto was stronger than he first realized and was pushed back violently against a tree. "This is the end, Zabuza," said Naruto, as he moved in for the kill, but the former mist shinobi ducked again under the strike, and went through hand signs. "We'll see about that, you little brat. Let's see if you can try this on for size. Water style. Water dragon jutsu," exclaimed a slightly peeved Zabuza, as he unleashed a massive dragon made up of water at Naruto, and hit the boy dead on. When the jutsu died down, Naruto didn't look the least hurt by the attack. Soaking wet, yes, but uninjured with an amused expression on his face. "My turn, Zabuza. Water style. Water dragon jutsu," exclaimed Naruto, as he sent the same jutsu back at Zabuza, only with more chakra, and more power behind this one. "Shit, his water dragon is twice the size of mine," thought Zabuza, as he was hit hard by the jutsu, and sent crashing down to the ground. "Time to die," stated Naruto with his Zanpakuto raised and ready to bring it down on the demon of the bloody mist. Only for Zabuza to be hit in the neck by Senbon needles and the man to fall down, dead. "Thank you for your assistance in combating Zabuza. I've been tracking him for a while now and waiting for the right time to strike," replied a masked shinobi resembling a hunter nin from Mist. "You sure took your sweet time," commented Sakura, with the masked shinobi looking at her for a moment and then went to pick the downed man up. "I did not wish to interfere with the fight due to the risk of myself and to yourselves in the event my sudden unexpected appearance became a distraction for your group at a crucial moment during the battle," replied the masked hunter nin. "So you say," replied Naruto with narrowed eyes. "You believe me to be something other than what I appear?" asked the hunter nin while tightening the grip around Zabuza's body. "I don't just believe it. I know it. I sensed someone in the bushes where that white-haired bunny was located. It wasn't Zabuza because he is too big and the sword would have stuck out like a sore thumb. It had to be someone of smaller height, who could fit in it when crouched, and then there is the fact the energy signature I felt was identical to your own. So unless you have an identical twin with that exact same chakra signature as yours, I don't believe for 1 second you're here to destroy the body, but save the body, and the life of Momochi Zabuza," answered Naruto with the hunter nin getting tense. "We will meet again. Count on it," replied the fake hunter nin before the two were gone in an instant. "Should we pursue?" asked Shino with Naruto and Anko shaking their head no. "No, that's not our job. Our mission is to get Tazuna back to his home, and after that is done, we are going to have a team meeting," answered Anko while looking at Sakura, who looked nervous, and the suspicion the former student of Orochimaru had about the identity of the impersonator was getting stronger. "Then we should not delay ourselves any further," replied Naruto with the group walking forward with his Zanpakuto changing back into a cane. "You guys were super awesome. I'm so glad I hired your group," said Tazuna while he walked with them to his house. "Stop, you're making me blush, old man," replied Anko with a grin, though inwardly she was seething over her suspicions of the impersonator of Haruno Sakura and didn't like it one bit. Tazuna's home sometime later. "Father. Oh, thank Kami, I feared Gato's men had killed you," exclaimed Tsunami, who hugged her father, and gestured the group to enter. "I would have been Tsunami if it wasn't for these super awesome shinobi I hired," stated Tazuna while making sure his daughter knew it was because of them that he was alive. "Thank you for protecting my father. I know he's not one of the most likable of people at times while drinking or has a hangover," replied Tsunami with her father grumbling about not being treated with respect. "Don't worry about it. He's tame compared to the people we know," replied Anko, which was true since she, Naruto, and even Shino for his bloodline knew people in Konoha with bigoted views. "Still, I'm glad you were able to bring him home safely," said Tsunami while the sound of tiny footsteps was heard and everyone saw a child glaring at the group before leaving for the second floor. "Who is the runt? Yours, I take it?" asked Anko with Tsunami nodding. "Yes, my son Inari. He's not a happy boy right now," answered Tsunami with the others frowning. "His brooding reminds me of an emo boy back in Konoha. He better get out of this emo state or I'm going to make him," stated Naruto, since he was not going to tolerate such a child being near him or his team. His team was its own emo-free zone and Naruto planned to keep it that way. We do have rooms upstairs. The two boys can bunk together while the girls can be in the room next to them, said Tsunade, with the boys nodding and Anko doing the same while Sakura looked a bit nervous. And rightfully so. Time to hit the hay, exclaimed Anko while dragging Sakura upstairs while Naruto and Shino calmly walked up the stairs. I have observed that our sensei is quite eccentric, stated Shino with Naruto smirking at him. Yeah, let's go with that, replied Naruto before his face became serious. So you noticed it too, stated Shino with Naruto nodding. Sakura is not Sakura. We have an impostor. Judging from the chakra level and signature I sensed coming off of the girl. I know who it is, answered Naruto with a scowl now forming on his face. You've had dealings with this person before? Questioned Shino with Naruto shaking his head no. Not me. Grandpa Baragan met her once soon when he first took over my body, replied Naruto with Shino frowning. I do not recall when that happened. Could you be more specific? Shino probed further with Naruto nodding and told her. With the Aburame stopping in his tracks. With Anko. Drop the disguise, commanded Anko once the door was shut after throwing Sakura into the room and put up a sound barrier jutsu. Sensei? Asked Sakura, before Anko took a step forward. You have 5 seconds, exactly 5 fucking seconds to remove that genjutsu over your body, or I am going to seriously fuck you up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, said Anko before Sakura put her hands up. All right, Kai, exclaimed Sakura, before the Haruno girl vanished in front of Anko's eyes. And revealed Yuhi Kurenai in her place. I expected someone would try sabotaging my Jounin team. Kakashi, Jiraiya, even the former Sandaime Hokage himself, but you taking their place in the matter? Never saw coming, never. So tell me why? Why are you doing this? Revenge of some kind against Naruto? Me in some way? Where is the real Sakura? Did she agree to this? She must have, if you thought a short to long-term mission outside the village to another country was possible without raising any red flags with your disappearance mixing with your own. Questioned Anko with Kurenai looking away from her. I didn't approach Sakura. She approached me with the offer to take her place on the mission. I had some time saved up for time off and put it in so no one would miss my presence in the village. Sakura was going to lay low within her house until my return, where I would tell her what happened in detail so she could make it seem like she had actually gone on the mission, replied Kurenai with Anko raising an eyebrow at her. Somehow that doesn't surprise me. You accepting the mission does. Why the hell did you accept in the first place? Did you want to discredit me? Are you doing it out of spite against the fifth because she wouldn't give you the team and Jounin you wanted? Asked Anko with Kurenai sighing. Because I wanted to observe Naruto while on the mission. To see how strong he truly was so I could determine if he was truly worthy of Hinata, answered Kurenai before she was shoved against the wall and Anko looking her dead in the eyes. Bullshit. I know when you're lying and this is one of them. You're telling a half-truth and wanting to observe Naruto, but not to see if he was worthy of the Hyuga girl's hand in marriage. You were observing Naruto to see when the time was right to get close to him so you could to take a kunai out to slice his neck open. You were planning to kill him. Kill my student. Kill the son of a Hokage, said Anko accusingly with Kurenai scowling at her. He's not worthy of Hinata. I will not have that bringer of death tied to a girl with the desire to heal others and protect life. Exclaimed Kurenai before she was slapped in the face by Anko. You listen to me, Kurenai. When we get back to Konoha, the Hokage is going to own your sorry ass, but until then, I own your ass, and I own you, so any order given will be obeyed to the letter. Also, don't bother trying to hide yourself from Naruto, or from Shino, since I know they can tell you are not Sakura. For the moment, you will have to keep the disguise of being Sakura for the sake of the client and his family so Konoha isn't filled entirely to the brim with incompetent shinobi, commanded Anko with Kurenai nodding, since it would look bad for Konoha if they knew the truth. I understand, answered Kurenai in a submissive tone. Good, now let's get some sleep. We have to prepare for Zabuza and the fake hunter Nin he had with him. Not to mention Gato's hired thugs, ordered Anko with Kurenai nodding in agreement. It had been 2 days since Jounin Team 7 made it to Tazuna's house. 2 long days for Yuhi Kurenai, who had to keep her disguise around the client's home, fooling the old drunk for a bridge builder, his daughter, and brooding emo for a grandson. The rest of Team 7 had a meeting later on not far from the house, but clearly seeable should any kind of problem arise, and it was in this moment that Kurenai revealed herself to them. Neither Jounin were surprised when she did. "I take it she knows what awaits her when we get back to Konoha?" questioned Naruto with his eyes never leaving Kurenai's own. "Oh, she knows. She'll only reveal herself should push come to shove on this mission, but I don't think that will happen unless things get nasty. They still might, so I expect Kurenai to bring everything she's got into completing this mission regardless of the said difficulty level," answered Anko with Kurenai grimacing slightly since she knew what awaited her in Konoha and it was not going to be pleasant. "Good. Zabuza we have detailed information on, but his loyal subordinate is a mystery to us, and that could be a problem in the future if we're not careful," replied Naruto with the others in the group nodding since there was no mention in the bingo book about Zabuza having anyone outside of the Demon Brothers working for him. "Agreed. Kurenai and I will watch over the client. You two should continue training as usual, but don't let your guard down, and watch out for any possible threats aimed at this house. Zabuza may be out of commission for a little while, but his subordinate is not, and there are still Gato's army of thugs he might send here once his patience has snapped," said Anko with Shino and Naruto nodding. "I just wish Tazuna's grandson for a brat would stop brooding and sulking like his whole world is the worst one in existence," said Naruto at last since Inari had done just that the whole time. "Losing one's surrogate father before your eyes isn't exactly pleasant, Naruto-san. All he has left are his parents and the country itself is suffocating around him," stated Shino, as he saw Naruto grip his cane tighter, and give the Aburame a cold yet burning look. "He still has his mother. He still has his grandfather. He has their love, and what does that brat do? He sulks, broods, and spits on the memory of the man that stood up against Gato and died for it. Rather than find a way to get stronger to honor the man, Inari cries like a baby and does nothing. It's high time he and the rest of this country stand up to Gato. By the time this mission is over, this village will believe in heroes again. I promise you that much will happen," stated Naruto before walking away from the group to train. "Inari better not do something stupid to piss Naruto off. It won't end well," remarked Anko before she motioned Kurenai to follow while Shino stared at Naruto for a moment while thinking things over in his mind. "With Zabuza and Haku, I was wondering why you had yet to succeed in killing the bridge builder, and now I do know. You failed Zabuza, against a full-grown woman and her 3 brats for students no less. I'm paying you to kill an old man and his pathetic bodyguard detail, who I doubt were paid much given how poor he was when first leaving this cesspool of a country. All you had to do at the very least was terrify his protection detail enough to flee, kill the old man, and be done with it. Instead, you lost the Demon Brothers, are now injured, and the bridge builder is trying to finish his bridge. How can you explain yourself for this failure, Zabuza?" demanded Gato while glaring at the bandaged-faced and bedridden man in front of him. The woman was once Orochimaru of the Sannin's former apprentice. Someone like that isn't a pushover. As for the 3 genin with her, they are strong. Stronger than genin should be at that age. The red-haired brat who caught the blade of my sword with his bare hand, and then threw it away from the group is no doubt the strongest of them all. There is something about him that makes him unusually different when compared to the others with him," answered Zabuza while Gato sneered. "Bah, you got sloppy and arrogant from doing this kind of thing for too long. You want to get paid? Heal your injuries and finish the job I hired you for, Zabuza. No more screw-ups and no more excuses, or else," exclaimed Gato before leaving with his 2 guards while Haku watched them go with cautious yet calculating eyes. "What a bag of hot air," remarked Zabuza with Haku smiling at him. "You should be healed by the end of the week, Zabuza-sama. Provided you don't strain yourself further," replied Haku while seeing Zabuza smirk behind his bandages. "I won't push myself too hard, Haku. I want a rematch with that red-haired Namikaze kid that might also be an Uzumaki too," answered Zabuza with Haku nodding. "He's dangerous. I sensed power behind him. Incredible and frightening power," said Haku worriedly with Zabuza nodding. "Did you follow up on the rumors springing up within Konoha regarding the Gaki?" asked Zabuza with Haku nodding. "Yes. It appears that the rumors being whispered of the former Yondaime Hokage and his wife returning from the dead are in fact true. Iwa has been buzzing with movement and Kumo has been rumbling as well. One no doubt wants the former Hokage dead while the other wishes to study them to duplicate the process that made it happen, answered Haku while Zabuza frowned at this news. And the boy himself? What's his story? Asked Zabuza with Haku's eyes becoming a bit distant. He was once the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Rumor has it that the boy did something a few months ago and summoned an entity that killed the Biju sealed within him, answered Haku with Zabuza snorting. The Biju can't die, Haku. If that were true, then this world wouldn't have been able to create a third-generation Jinchuriki. What else? Replied Zabuza with Haku still having that sad look from moments ago. He was hated by nearly all of Konoha. If the rumors are true, the boy was attacked and hurt repeatedly by the village. Both shinobi and civilians have tried to murder him on multiple occasions, answered Haku with Zabuza frowning. They didn't know he was the son of the Yondaime Hokage? Questioned Zabuza with Haku shrugging. Some apparently knew of his heritage, but they still didn't care, and hid the truth from everyone else while his Jinchuriki status was known to all the adults, answered Haku while Zabuza scoffed slightly. Who thought that was a good idea? Asked Zabuza with Haku smirking. The Sandaime Hokage. The now twice retired Sandaime Hokage, answered Haku while Zabuza just couldn't believe the old man's stupidity. I see. Regardless of his past or present status, I don't intend to lose a second time to the Gaki. When the fight happens on the bridge, you will take down the Aburame and the pink-haired eyesore. The woman and the red-haired brat are mine to kill, ordered Zabuza with Haku nodding at his order. Understood, Zabuza-sama. In the meantime, you need to get some rest while I gather the necessary herbs tomorrow morning in order to speed up your recovery, answered Haku before heading for the door. Tazuna's house that night. Dinner with Tazuna's family was a quiet one at the moment. Kurenai, who was currently in her disguise as Sakura, was being polite and helping Tsunade in the kitchen. Anko was going over the schedule with the other two genin on who would guard Tazuna, and for how long until the next rotation. At the same time, Inari was glaring at the group like he had since their arrival, as if they were the source of the family's problems, and wanted them gone. Okay, tomorrow, Shino will watch over Tazuna during the morning watch, and Naruto will take over into the afternoon. Sakura and I will watch over the rest of the family until later on at night when we are all here. My snake summons have been guarding the house at night with no problems so far, but that doesn't mean everyone here gets to sleep in, and be lazy in thinking this house is impenetrable. So sleep lightly or with one eye open from here on out because these next few days are when we should be the most alert, stated Anko while eating her meal with her genin nodding. Why do you even bother trying? Asked Inari with the group looking at him. Why do you even bother asking? Countered Naruto with the child's eyes glaring at him directly now. Because Gato is invincible. He's too strong. You can't beat him, exclaimed Inari, and the group of shinobi looked at each other before shaking their heads. Gato is just a figurehead. His so-called power is the money he pays thugs to do the dirty work for him. Take away the money, you take away his power, and his army of thugs the man has hired to harass the people here in this country, replied Naruto with his team in full agreement with him on the matter. What do you know? You're just a visitor. You've seen a few days of what everyone has to go through. You don't know what it means to suffer, exclaimed Inari with tears in his eyes and glaring at the red-haired boy. And his words were the worst thing you could say to Naruto. I don't know what it means to suffer. Did I hear you correctly? Did he seriously just say that to me? To my face? Questioned Naruto with Anko groaning, knowing what Inari just said was the worst thing to say to the redhead, and Shino shifting a little in his seat with a sense of unease behind his large coat. Even Kurenai behind her Sakura disguise tensed while watching from the kitchen. So what if I did? Challenged Inari before he was grabbed from his seat by the collar of his shirt by Naruto and lifted off of his chair to stare right in the red-haired boy's face. Look into my eyes, boy. Take a good, long look into these eyes. These eyes have seen and experienced more hardship, more pain, more anguish, horror, and betrayal than you could ever hope to know in 1,000 lifetimes. By the time I was at your age, I've been beaten, stabbed, burned, poisoned, nearly had all my bones broken, and starved for food with what little I could get, being so rotten a hungry rat wouldn't eat it. The leader of the village, who I trusted to watch over me, was a liar, a cheat, and he betrayed me on many levels. My parents, who sacrificed their lives for me, were loved, honored, and praised for their sacrifice. As for me, I was hated because of it. My own godfather betrayed me. My godmother was lied to in order to get her away from Konoha so she couldn't raise me like my parents wanted. You couldn't last 2 weeks in my shoes growing up, boy, and I've had to endure crap from my own village since I was born up until a few months ago. Live my life year 1 through 12 without killing yourself like I've tried to do in the past and then come see me about suffering. Until then, keep your head down, and your mouth shut when it comes to talking about suffering because in the end, it is you who knows nothing of suffering. Exclaimed Naruto before tossing the boy into Kurenai, who barely caught the boy, and the Namikaze himself decided to leave the house in the possible chance he used his spiritual pressure to kill everyone around him. Did that really happen to him? Was it all true? Asked Tsunade with Anko nodding. Every word of what Naruto said was true. Back in Konoha, Naruto was the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune, and the strongest of all the 9 legendary Biju. Jinchuriki hold the Biju they have sealed inside their body, even have the ability to access the Biju's power, and are used mostly as weapons of war. Ironically enough, the people that hate Jinchuriki are also the ones that make them, and use them as deterrents of war when they aren't used in them. In the last 3 shinobi wars, Konoha hasn't used its previous Jinchurikis, who preceded Naruto, and Konoha in the past as a whole was never made aware of who the chosen Jinchuriki was due to the mistreatment they would receive as a result. However, recently events have drastically changed Naruto's position in life, and now he's no longer Konoha's punching bag, answered Anko and looked sadly into her drink. So he was essentially alone? The whole time? Questioned Tazuna with Anko nodding. For the most part, some shinobi, who didn't hate Naruto have been able to intervene on a few occasions when the beatings got really bad, but they were so few, and far in terms of the times he was saved. You had to understand why Naruto is upset at your grandson for his words. Inari, you talk about suffering like everything here is the absolute worst, and no one else's life can compare to it. You have your grandfather, your mother, and even a surrogate father figure for a time to look up to while growing up. Naruto didn't have any of that growing up or the love that comes with it. You think your life is bad, kid? Naruto's was 1,000 times worse. Answered Anko with Inari looking at her in shock, and so was the rest of his family. Damn, I knew when I saw those eyes of his that the Gaki had it bad, but to know just how bad is something else, replied Tazuna while running a hand through his receding hairline. I'm actually surprised this house is still standing with all of us still alive, Tazuna. Naruto showed a considerable amount of restraint towards your grandson. With the power he wields, plus his mood the Gaki here put him in. We should all be dead, and this entire country along with us, remarked Anko with the family around her, even Kurenai, and Shino looked surprised by that. He's really that strong? Asked Inari with Anko looking the boy dead in the eye. Trust me, kid, that Gaki has the power to do things that would give you nightmares beyond Gato. Beyond anything you have ever seen or known. Konoha is only standing because of a handful of people in our shinobi village, and I mean that in a literal sense, answered Anko with Shino nodding in agreement at that last part. Shit, whispered Tazuna to himself before letting out a sigh. With Naruto. If Naruto were a normal boy, still training to be a strong shinobi like he had long since desired in life, the area around him would be destroyed, and the terrain would be altered considerably. However, his fusion with Baragan, the ancient Hollow King's knowledge, and the Redhead's own consideration for the people living in this country were the only things preventing him from unleashing his power. Naruto knew that doing that would result in this country being destroyed in an instant, its people dead, the animals dead, and just about everything else would die. In short, Naruto had come to this place to be alone, reflect on his anger, and once more remind himself of what would happen if he unleashed his power. His power controlled life and death. Such power was literally in the palm of his hand to take life and make it rot away if he wished it. Granted, the power to do the opposite was there too, but Naruto felt such power could not be used when angry, and wasn't about to try just yet. So with a great amount of restraint, Naruto walked over to a tree, and sat down in front of it. His energy sparking like electricity on occasion to show just how much restraint was being made on Naruto's part to not blow everything up, and closed his eyes to get some needed sleep. When morning came, Naruto sensed someone was nearby, his mind never fully asleep, as he had learned to do when growing up, and secretly monitored the figure heading in his direction while faking sleep. The red-haired Namikaze knew who this person was, as he had sensed this same chakra signature before, and continued to monitor this person with a certain bit of interest. What was Zabuza's subordinate doing here? Was it for spying on the house? Assassination maybe? Naruto's interest increased further when the figure was standing right in front of him and sensed the fake hunter nin was tense yet kept calm despite being so close. Curious. Even more when he heard the sound of clothing move, his enemy kneeling, pausing for a few seconds, and contemplating on what to do next. Naruto waited, his body never moving, as he felt a hand moving closer, reaching for his neck, to grab, strangle, or maybe even snap it. Which one? Surprisingly, the hand didn't reach for his neck like Naruto thought, but rather went to his shoulder, gently touching it, and shaking him gently. "You'll catch cold if you sleep here," came the soft, soothing, worried female voice in front of him. "There are far worse things in this world to be concerned about than that of a simple cold, my dear," Naruto calmly countered while staring at the girl wearing a simple kimono. "That's true, especially given your profession," replied the girl with a smile. "Profession?" questioned Naruto with the girl looking at him with a raised eyebrow. "You are a shinobi, correct?" "The headband is a clear giveaway," answered the girl with Naruto smirking at her and mentally congratulated his enemy for using such a key detail to cover up the fact he never mentioned his occupation. "True enough. What is your occupation?" asked Naruto before standing, and the girl did the same. "I don't have one, though I do have a certain skill in the medicinal arts. Hence why I am here searching for healing herbs for a special someone," answered the girl with Naruto raising his eyebrow now. "I see. Your friend must be in considerable pain to venture here alone during these dark times of this country being oppressed. I am Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. What is your name?" asked Naruto with the girl pausing for a second. "Haku. It's Haku," answered the girl with Naruto nodding. "That's a lovely name," replied Naruto with Haku nodding. "You're welcome, Naruto-san. If you will excuse me, I need to go collect some herbs before the local wildlife eats them," was Haku's response before she began walking away. "And ruins your chance to properly heal Momochi Zabuza?" questioned Naruto with Haku stopping, her body going tense, and quickly formed senbon needles made of ice after quickly using her bloodline to manipulate the morning dew on the grass to bend to her command. "How did you know?" whispered Haku in a deathly voice. "Your chakra signature, my dear. You can change your appearance, your hair, eye color, and facial features all you want. But a chakra signature is unmistakable no matter what you do to yourself. Your chakra signature is the same one I encountered with my team when fighting Zabuza, and even your voice sounds similar despite how muffled it was behind the mist hunter nin mask you wore. That was a very clever and deceptive plan you created to successfully escape with Zabuza when he bites off more than he can chew when losing a fight. I commend you for it," answered Naruto with Haku throwing the senbon needles in her hand at him, but the redhead catches them easily, and then breaks them a second later. "What now? Are you going to capture me? Interrogate me? Kill me?" questioned Haku, as she would tell him nothing, and would give her life to protect Zabuza. "Nothing. Go about your business like it was a normal day for you, my dear," answered Naruto with Haku frowning at him. "That's it? You're not going to try anything?" asked Haku while wondering if this was some kind of trick or trap. "No, you are not ready for a fight with me or my team. Neither is Zabuza. He'll be healed by the end of week, won't he?" questioned Naruto with Haku nodding. "Yes," answered Haku with Naruto smiling. "Excellent. Make sure he is 100% when the time comes for us to fight on the bridge. I will not have my victory over him remotely tainted by the fact he wasn't at peak performance," replied Naruto, as he began to walk away, and felt Haku's eyes on him the entire time. "Very well. Oh, and for the record, I'm a boy," said Haku with Naruto stopping in mid-step before turning to face his enemy. "One of the things I learned during my time growing up in Konoha was how to tell when someone is telling me the truth and when they are lying. While you are a skilled liar, I can tell you are in fact a girl, and I understand why you lied to me about it," countered Naruto with Haku stiffening at being called out on her lie. "You won't stop Zabuza-sama. He will kill the bridge builder. I will make sure of it," stated Haku with conviction in her voice. "I have no doubt you will try, my dear. I look forward to seeing just how far you will go to ensure victory for him," replied Naruto before he walked away from her. Team 7 sometime later. "So you encountered the fake mist hunter nin and gathered some valuable intel from her too. Not bad, Gaki. You're a regular lady killer," said Anko with a smirk on her face while Kurenai, under her illusion, scowled at the idea of Naruto flirting with the girl that was their enemy's subordinate. Shino was silent. It's not like that. She's very protective of Zabuza on a fanatical level. We'll have to be cautious when fighting her. If given the chance, I have no doubt Haku will throw her life away to save Zabuza, or give him an opening to kill Tazuna, replied Naruto since he saw those eyes and knew that Haku had that kind of devotion to the demon of the bloody mist. That kind of devotion at level in a shinobi is rare, but not unheard of, and should not be taken lightly when fighting one. It is said they fight like they are possessed by 100 warriors, moving faster, and hitting harder than a normal human being. They have the ability to push themselves to the brink when enraged and can kill hundreds of people in their path, replied Shino with Naruto nodding in agreement. All the more reason to not let down your guard around her. Battles have been lost when one side with victory within their grasp underestimates the opposition when in a fight, replied Naruto with Kurenai still scowling at him. And I suppose this girl interests you? Questioned Kurenai while Naruto scowled back at her. My only interest I possibly have regarding Haku is the water manipulating ability I saw for a brief moment, and how to ensure she doesn't kill Tazuna or make a move that could allow Zabuza to do it, answered Naruto in a cold tone that told Kurenai to watch her mouth. Good, because I will not have you break Hinata's heart by taking interest in an enemy kunoichi over her in the event you wish to capture her for the harem Baragan helped negotiated for you on your behalf, countered Kurenai with Anko letting out a sigh at this point. Kurenai, he's got an arranged marriage with Inoichi's girl, and Tsume's eldest, so you can't say Naruto is going to be unfaithful to Hinata. Besides, he's still getting to know each one, and if he somehow captures this kunoichi for that reason is entirely up to him, said Anko with Kurenai glaring at her. You sound like you almost support such an idea, Anko, accused Kurenai with Anko shrugging at her. Hey, it happens, Kurenai. How many kunoichi has Konoha captured during the 3 shinobi wars for the simple purpose of having bloodlines thrive and make the power of the leaf grow? The other villages have done it too. Major and minor. Don't act like this is new to you, Kurenai. Your fake nativity doesn't suit you, answered Anko with Shino raising an eyebrow upon hearing this. So capturing enemy kunoichi to one day impregnate them is a standard practice for all shinobi villages? This wasn't exactly covered during my second time going through the academy, stated Shino while Kurenai glared at Anko for revealing that information to the 2 genin. Not surprising. It's not exactly public knowledge and it's supposed to be known to chunin or higher in level shinobi. Genin are allowed to be told by their Jounin sensei if they by chance have a situation where they capture an enemy kunoichi, but that's an extremely rare thing, and happens once in a blue moon. We don't tell academy students because it makes the heads of the boys think perverted things, risks their own sense of morality, and our potential clients possibly hearing about it from children kind of has them seek out shinobi from another villages, answered Anko with Shino nodding while Naruto had a slightly faraway look on his face. Kumo tried that with my mother and would have succeeded if not for my father's timely intervention, stated Naruto while the grip on his cane tightened noticeably. Then think about that before giving into the perverted idea of capturing this kunoichi for the sick purpose of making her your, remarked Kurenai before she sent to the floor by an incredible amount of spiritual pressure from Naruto with the others struggling to stand due to the majority of it focusing on the disguised kunoichi. You have a lot of nerve saying that to me, you insect. You insult my honor. You insult my family on both sides by slandering me in the belief I would do that to a kunoichi because I'm male and all males to you are perverted pigs that ogle women any chance they get. Exclaimed Naruto while leaning down and grabbing the scared woman's face by the jaw so she could look him dead in the eyes. I'd let him ogle me. In a few years, thought Anko, as she was surprisingly turned on by the idea of being looked at by Naruto in such a lustful manner, and being taken by such a powerful being. Even if I did capture Haku during this mission, I would not treat her as you have rudely claimed I would, but rather see to it that she lives life peacefully under the protection of my clan, and I will see to it that anyone that makes the girl's life miserable while under my care answers to me, said Naruto before he let go of Kurenai's face and lifted the spiritual pressure off of everyone. In any case, we know Zabuza is recovering, this girl is healing him, and in a few days' time we fight them both with the future of this country at stake. No pressure, replied Anko with Naruto nodding with Shino doing the same. Kurenai weakly nodded before wiping the sweat off her face. We'll be ready. Though I think Kurenai should stay behind under her disguise to watch over the family when the battle occurs, stated Naruto with Kurenai looking at him in horror at the idea. Why me? demanded Kurenai with a hint of anger in her voice. Why not? You want to prove useful on this mission for a change? This is your chance to do it. Take it now or else I will send you back home via Garganta and you can explain your actions in coming on this mission to the Hokage sooner than later, answered Naruto with Kurenai going pale in the face since she knew he would do it and her career as a shinobi of the leaf would be put in serious jeopardy. Granted it already was, but it would be sooner rather than later. I understand, replied Kurenai in defeat with Anko smirking. Not bad Naruto-kun. You're a natural at taking command, exclaimed Anko cheerfully with Naruto shaking his head. Grandpa Baragan was much better at it than I am. Besides, this woman isn't worthy of being a servant or slave to my family. She's just too weak in my eyes, replied Naruto before walking away from the shocked woman on the ground. Ouch. Talk about a low blow Kurenai-chan. Then again, it was deserved for your own pre-verbal hits toward my student. Just count your lucky stars that he didn't decide to age you into an old hag, remarked Anko before she motioned for Shino to follow her. Incomplete bridge days later. You showed up, remarked Zabuza with Haku by his side wearing her hunter nin mask. Was there any doubt? Asked Naruto with Zabuza smirking behind his bandages. No, I knew you would show up. Anyone with Uzumaki blood in them doesn't give up or run away. They stand and fight no matter the odds. Given all the shit I've heard about you and the look in those blue eyes of yours. Life hasn't been fun growing up, replied Zabuza with Naruto narrowing his eyes slightly. No. It wasn't pleasant, not in the slightest. I can tell it was the same for her too when we first spoke civilly a few days ago, answered Naruto with Haku tense slightly since she had done her best to hide that when they spoke. Considering we are both from water country and Mist is responsible for the bloodline purges there, remarked Zabuza while glancing over at Haku. So she's not a kunoichi formerly of Mist? Questioned Naruto with Zabuza nodding. I found her on the streets. Basically homeless during the cold winter there, though I don't think it affected her too much on account of Haku's unique bloodline. She was only wearing rags for clothing and eating out of a dumpster, answered Zabuza while he was questioning himself on why he was answering the brat's question. I know what that's like. Digging for scrapes. Trying to stay warm when there is no place to go and with so little on hand to survive, replied Naruto while looking directly at Haku now. He's like me. We've suffered for different reasons, but our pain is similar, thought Haku, as she now wished to avoid fighting him, and simply walk away with Zabuza to another job that paid well. But they couldn't. The client wanted the bridge builder dead. Zabuza had taken up the contract hit and so did she to an extent. It's a shame we had to be on opposite ends of this. I could offer you both a safe place to crash for a while. Maybe even talk to the Hokage about giving you both a chance to be Konoha shinobi. No more running. No more looking over your shoulder for hunter nin from Mist that may or may not be pursuing you, said Naruto with Haku's head twitching slightly to stop herself from looking at Zabuza. Yeah, it is a shame. Oh well, so be it. Come on Gaki, bring out that weapon of yours, and let's have ourselves a fight. You too Jounin. Haku, take care of the Aburame. Once he's down, take care of the bridge builder, replied Zabuza with Haku nodding. That's pretty bold of you, remarked Anko with Zabuza raising a non-existent eyebrow at her while Haku moved to engage Shino near the bridge builder. How so? Questioned Zabuza with Anko smirking. Facing me is a challenge unto itself, but Naruto-kun here is on a whole other level. If you do know his history like I think you do, even the rumors no doubt floating around the elemental countries are what you've heard about him, chances are you know what he can do, and that fighting the two of us together is just plain suicidal, answered Anko with Zabuza looking at her and then Naruto. So, is that supposed to frighten me? Asked Zabuza with Anko smirking further. It should, but something tells me you don't care, and just want a good fight even if it is to the death. So here's what's going to happen. You want to fight? Fine, you fight Naruto here, not the two of us against you. Just him versus you in a fight to the death, offered Anko with Zabuza now thinking her offer over before looking at the red-haired boy. You better give me a good fight Gaki. I don't know whether to believe the rumors Haku heard about you or not. If you don't live up to your hype, I'm going to be pissed off, and take my anger out on your comrades after I behead you," stated Zabuza with his sword ready and saw Naruto's cane change into a battle axe. "The same goes for you too, Zabuza. I honestly felt our last encounter was disappointing to say the least. I honestly expected better from someone who was once a member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. I hope this time you live up to your reputation," countered Naruto with Zabuza growling at him for the jab at his skills. With their words spoken, the two clashed against the other with their weapons, and the sounds of metal clanging against metal was heard. Zabuza's sword hitting the staff part of the battle axe more than the blade part. That was to be expected, of course, given how Naruto's weapon was designed like that and the axe part was meant for a long-range kill. Zabuza's choice in a weapon was an all-over range kill, as he even up close if angled right could severely injure or kill the intended target. As the two warriors clashed violently against the other, Naruto was barely moving from his position, shifting his feet on occasion every so often, and pushing Zabuza back. As for Zabuza himself, the man was getting frustrated, as he used the hidden mist jutsu to make it difficult to see anything, and made it extra thick since he didn't have to worry about the jutsu draining his chakra too much since they were literally surrounded by water. In fact, the one with the greatest advantage at this moment was Haku, since her bloodline allowed for the manipulation of water to be turned into ice in any shape she desired, and it wasn't hard for the girl to call upon the vast reservoir below the bridge to be turned into a very dangerous weapon. This brat is good. He doesn't have to go on the offensive due to his strength somehow being greater than mine. All the brat has to do is shift his foot, keep his senses open, and block my attack with his weapon. Even if I make a water clone, something tells me that it wouldn't have the intended effect, and even if I sent one to kill the bridge builder, I still have to deal with the Jounin, no doubt using her own senses to make sure I don't try it, thought Zabuza, as he kept trying to get through Naruto's defense to kill him, but he kept getting caught. His sword strikes were blocked, and pushed back roughly several feet. "You're doing far better than last time. Lasting longer too. Your skills are definitely that of a master. I commend you and your sword for withstanding my strength when wielding my Zanpakuto," said Naruto with Zabuza sweating slightly from his various attempts to push against his weapon. "You make it sound like my sword should have been destroyed by now," replied Zabuza with Naruto looking at him dead in the eyes. "Actually, I do think your sword should have been destroyed by now after taking all that abuse. It means your weapon is not your average sword you swing around just for show and intimidation. Not surprising considering it's a weapon of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist, but even still to withstand the abuse of my Zanpakuto deserves a great deal of praise from me, and I do not hand it out lightly," answered Naruto with Zabuza narrowing his eyes at him through the mist. "Just goes to show you that the swords from mist aren't to be taken lightly. Especially mine," exclaimed Zabuza, as he pushed chakra into his feet, and moved faster than usual to get through Naruto's defense. And succeed. Zabuza knew that the boy was gauging his speed, acting accordingly to block it, and the demon of the bloody mist knew in order to get a hit on this kid required that his speed would have to be faster than expected. To move faster than his opponent was expecting, swing the weapon with all his strength, and injure if not kill the brat with the strike. Unfortunately for Zabuza, his strike, while hitting true in terms of hitting Naruto's flesh, it did not slice through the boy like he intended, and was shocked when the brat just looked at him with indifference before looking down where the blade had struck him just below the shoulder. The clothing was cut into, but the flesh behind it didn't even have a bruise, and yet Naruto himself was internally impressed Zabuza had managed to do even that. "Not bad, Zabuza. You are indeed a credit to Mist's 7 Swordsman program. You used your chakra to move faster than usual, if only for a moment, in order to do serious damage to me. However, I must confess that one of my powers is to slow time down, and I let your sword hit me. I wanted to see just how effective your weapon would be against my body's hierro," stated Naruto with Zabuza looking at him in shock. "You've been toying with me. This whole time you've been holding back your true power against me," exclaimed Zabuza with Naruto just smirking at him. "Trust me, Zabuza. If I were to use my full power on you, this entire bridge wouldn't even be standing, and neither would my team," replied Naruto before he frowned and looked off into the distance. "You're bluffing, kid. This bridge is massive. No one person has that kind of power to destroy something like this unless they were a Jinchuriki, and if the rumors are indeed true, you're not one of them anymore," challenged Zabuza with Naruto still frowning. That is true. I am no longer a Jinchuriki, but that doesn't mean I am weak, and don't have the power to do what I claim. If anything, I'm stronger than all the Biju put together, and that includes the Kyuubi no Kitsune. However, that is another tale for another time, and you should cancel the mist you've set up around this bridge, replied Naruto with Zabuza frowning at him with suspicion. Why? Asked Zabuza with Naruto casually grabbing the blade from Zabuza's sword still against his shoulder and moved it away like it was nothing. Because we have uninvited guests, answered Naruto before he used Sonido and was now in the dome of ice mirrors Haku had created to combat Shino, with the Aburame looking like a pincushion while a large quantity of insects being killed by Senbon needles pinning them to the ground. Naruto-san? Questioned Shino hopefully while seeing the boy appear before him. This fight ends now, stated Naruto while standing in front of Shino and being a shield should Haku decide to send another volley his way. I cannot stop. The bridge builder must die so Zabuza's dream can live. It is nothing personal, Naruto-san. But I must remove you and the Aburame so Zabuza can complete the contract, replied Haku and shot Senbon needles at the red-haired boy. Only for them to fall to the ground harmlessly after making contact. There is no need for us to fight anymore, Haku. The contract you and Zabuza had with Gato is no longer valid. Look, countered Naruto, as he looked pointed down the edge of the bridge with Gato standing slightly in front of his army of mercenary thugs. Well, this is disappointing, Zabuza. I was honestly expecting you deal with this group of shinobi easily given your reputation for being a master at killing people. Turns out you're simply incompetent and against a child no less. I can see the purple-haired slut not that far away could be a distraction with the way she dresses, but to be unable to kill the brats she had with her is just sad, and pathetic on so many levels. Not that it really matters since I'm never going to pay you for the job anyway, commented Gato with Zabuza growling at him. What, you slime, you broke the unwritten rule between client and shinobi, exclaimed Zabuza with Gato waving it off like it was nothing. Rules are made to be broken. Especially by the client holding all the money a shinobi gets paid for doing their job. Besides, it's unwritten and therefore unenforceable despite how it's been honored since the way of shinobi has been in its infancy. Why should I pay you, when killing you in your weakened state is so much better? I can then collect the bounty on your head and make quite the profit in the process, countered Gato with Zabuza looking like he was ready to explode with rage. There is just one problem with that scenario, Gato, replied Naruto, as he walked over to Zabuza, and smirked at the crooked businessman. Oh? And what exactly is the problem I have regarding my plan? Questioned Gato with a sneer on his face. You are assuming we are all in a weakened state and all of us will fend for ourselves without uniting for the single purpose of destroying you, answered Naruto before his Zanpakuto turned into a cane and stomped it hard on the bridge with his power shaking it almost violently. Tazuna made a mental note to make sure the legs of the bridge weren't damaged in the long run of things. Impressive little trick boy, but we both know you shinobi use illusions and the like to make normal people fear you. You just used those explosive tags and harmless bombs to make us think you made the bridge shake like that, remarked Gato with his thugs going from slightly fearful to smug at his words. An illusion? Is that what you think I just did? If you loved that, then you will love this next little trick where I kill you all in one single shot, replied Naruto, as he raised his hand, his fingers spread out slightly, and purplish energy began to form at the tip of his fingers. And what little shinobi trick can make you do that? I may not know much about how those jutsus are used, but I know enough that there is no such jutsu capable of doing what you are threatening us with, countered Gato with Naruto smirking. You foolish little man. There are jutsus in this world that have the power to bend space and time. There are jutsus that can change entire landscapes from forest to desert in a span of a few seconds. Though what I have in mind is not exactly a jutsu. It's something else in its entirety. Something I've been experimenting with for quite some time and now I get to test it against all of you pests, replied Naruto with his outstretched hand forming a purple energy and his smile grew. That looks just like the Rasengan. Only it looks like death itself is in it, thought Zabuza while he along with everyone else behind him was getting a good long look at the orb of energy. Among the Espada, who are the strongest of Arankars, each has the ability to use this power forming in my hand called a Sero, and a special version that was banned within the walls of Las Noches in the lands of Hueco Mundo, explained Naruto while the orb solidified perfectly in the outstretched palm. Huh? What the hell are you talking about, brat? There is no such place as Las Noches or Hueco Mundo, barked Gato with Naruto smirking slightly. Don't concern yourself with the names since they are well beyond your understanding and from a place beyond your reach. As for Arankars forming Seros, some of the Espada had special Seros unique only to themselves, and each one was potent in their own right. However, my grandfather Baragan had no such Sero, which is a shame since it would have been truly a magnificent power to behold, and to be feared because of it. In honor of the former king of Hueco Mundo, I have created this Sero in his memory, and honor you all with being the first to witness what it can do. Even if most you won't live long enough to tell anyone what this Sero will do to you, replied Naruto with Gato scoffing. You're bluffing. Don't listen to that punk kid. Kill him, Zabuza, and the brat with shades. Save the women for later. Once my boys return from Tazuna's place with his family, I can have some fun with his daughter, and leave the other girl to the rest of you guys for extra payment for your troubles, commanded Gato with his army of hired thugs smiling at the idea. Fool, you act like some god when all you really are in this world is a little man hiding behind an army that is paid to fight for you. You throw them away like cannon fodder because the fewer troops you have, the fewer you have to pay, and take money out of your deep pockets. Know your words have only brought about your death. Now do the world a favor when this Sero hits you. Rot and die. Sero respira, exclaimed Naruto, as he unleashed his Sero from his hand, and it shot toward the horrified army of thugs charging his way. Those that it hit first were given a quick and merciful death. Those that leapt out of the way were not so lucky. When an Arankar or hollow like a Manos Grande for example uses a Sero, it destroys whatever it hits, burning whatever the beam initially misses, and leaving a path of untold destruction in its wake. Naruto's Sero, however, it was something else entirely. It was designed to use the power to make things rot and die as a long-range weapon similar to how the Respira was used in a similar form. Only instead of spreading it out like the Respira itself, it was concentrated, compressed, controlled, and when unleashed would make just about anything around the Sero rot and die. And boy did his targets die. The thugs that managed to somehow dodge the Sero found their bodies decaying before their eyes, screaming out in pain, as their skin, their flesh, and bones began to dissolve into nothingness. The shinobi behind him watched in shock and horror at the sight of their enemies dying in such a horrible manner. The thugs were pleading for mercy, begging Kami to spare them, even begging Naruto to show mercy, and reverse what he had just done to them. Gato him had run to the side of the bridge, somehow managing to dodge the Sero, and not rotting from the aftereffects of the attack. He watched Naruto looking at him with disgust, and the businessman looks back in fear at what that single Sero could do. I'll say this only once to you, kid. You scare the living shit out of me, remarked Zabuza with Naruto smirking back at him. Come now, Zabuza, is that any way to thank the person who is handing Gato over to you, and the chance for revenge against the pig that broke the unwritten rule of the shinobi world? Questioned Naruto, as he saw Zabuza frown for a moment, turned to see Gato, and then smile sadistically behind his bandages. You're all right in my book, Gaki, replied Zabuza before leaping over to where Gato was leaning against the railing of the incomplete bridge decaying slightly from where the Sero was launched. Wait, show mercy, Zabuza, and I'll pay you 3 times your rate, exclaimed Gato with Zabuza growling at him. Only 3? Questioned Zabuza with Gato squirming under his presence. Without his thugs to back him up, Gato was just a pathetic piece of shit that could walk. 5 times your rate, offered Gato with Zabuza leaning down so he was face to face with the businessman. You can do better than that, countered Zabuza while moving his sword on his shoulders slightly so the tiny man would take the hint. 8 times the going rate, exclaimed Gato fearfully while Zabuza thought about it for a moment. Still not high enough. I'll give you one last chance, so you better make it count, replied Zabuza with the shaking businessman going pale in the face. 10 times your going rate. 10 times what was first offered, yelled Gato with Zabuza smirking. Deal, replied Zabuza with Gato looking happy with that. Thank you, Zabuza. You won't regret it, said Gato with Zabuza's smirk increasing behind his bandages. Before slicing the man's right arm clean off. You're right about that, replied Zabuza with Gato screaming out in pain. We had a deal. You agreed to show me mercy, exclaimed Gato with Zabuza letting out a cruel laugh. But I am being merciful. Dying by my hands is probably the most merciful thing that could happen to you at this moment. So shut up and die, countered Zabuza before he sliced Gato's head clean off his body with both falling off the bridge into the water below. Ah, I wanted more, whined Anko while she saw Zabuza shrug when he walked over to the group. Then he shouldn't have made such a pricey deal with me, answered Zabuza before he, Naruto, and Anko laughed at the situation. Well, it cost me a good chunk of the bridge, but considering that the end result is my country no longer being under the rule of a tyrant, I can live with it, remarked Tazuna, as he saw the section of the bridge where Naruto shot the Sero Respira had decayed, and fell into the water below. Your people are free from Gato's reign. I don't suppose you know where the piece of human filth was staying, Zabuza, replied Naruto with Zabuza nodding. Yeah, I know where he was living. Nice little fortress he set up for himself. Should have a few people in it guarding the area and waiting for his return. Why? Answered Zabuza with the red-haired boy smirking. The man no doubt brought a large chunk of his money to this place in order to pay for his army, which you can take, and anything else of financial value as compensation for your troubles with my team, answered Naruto with Zabuza smirking. Nice. Haku and I will have to go through a few of the guards there, but it's a small price to pay for the pig fucker's money, remarked Zabuza with Naruto nodding. Oh crap, Gato mentioned something about sending some of his thugs after my family, exclaimed Tazuna with Naruto frowned and focused for a moment before smiling. They are alive and unharmed. A little frightened, but relieved to be out of danger, said Naruto with Tazuna letting out a sigh of relief. And our teammate guarding them? Asked Shino while making sure his words did not reveal that Kurenai was watching over the client's family instead of Sakura. She's alive too. A little drained, but unharmed as well, answered Naruto with Anko smirking since she knew Kurenai might be alive now. But that was going to change once they got back to Konoha. Come on Haku, we have a crappy fortress to raid and retrieve what was promised for our services, commanded Zabuza with Haku nodding, but the girl looked at Naruto for a second, and then followed her master. She may have that mask on, but I think that girl has a crush on you Naruto-kun, said Anko in a teasing voice. You're imagining things, countered Naruto with Anko smirking. Am I? Or could it be that your sensei can sense these things? Challenged Anko while Naruto smirked at her. Then you should be able to sense yourself, remarked Naruto with Anko blushing a bit at his own teasing. Shut up. You can't talk that way to your Jounin sensei, challenged Anko with Naruto just kept smirking at her. Try and stop me, was Naruto's response before he used Sonido and was gone from her sight while getting the last word. Oh, he is so dead when I get my hands on him, exclaimed Anko, as she fumed at being teased by Naruto, but also that he got the last word, and laugh over her. Something tells me Naruto has nothing to worry about, thought Shino, as he watched his sensei curse up a storm while she stomped back to the house, and looked over at Tazuna to see him sweat drop. You guys may be the best, but all of you are super weird, remarked Tazuna with Shino just nodding since he couldn't dispute it. You have no idea, was Shino's only response while they walked back to the house. 2 weeks later at the now completed bridge. You really have to go, huh? Asked Tazuna with all the people there to bid them farewell. We have to get back to the Hokage and give our report now that the bridge is completed along with our mission, answered Anko with Tazuna nodding. Sorry about lying to you guys regarding my protection detail, replied Tazuna while he scratched the back of his head. Maybe if you cut back on drinking, you wouldn't have that problem, offered Tsunade with Tazuna looking like he was ready to die at the notion he should quit drinking. Why do you have to be so mean? Asked Tazuna with tears running down his eyes. You're going to visit, right? Asked Inari with Naruto smirking before putting his hand on the boy and ruffling his hair. Of course, I want to see how strong you've become in my absence, Inari. That and your grandfather has a hefty bill to pay our village, answered Naruto with Tazuna looking deflated at hearing those words. I knew it, mumbled Tazuna with the group of Konoha shinobi letting out a chuckle. Where is Zabuza and that Haku girl? Did they leave already? Asked Tsunade since she had been told what happened on the bridge by Naruto and Anko. Nah, we're waiting for you guys to finish your mushy farewells, replied Zabuza, as he appeared behind the Konoha shinobi with Haku without her mask on. And where are you two going to go from here on out? Questioned Anko with Zabuza looking at Haku and the girl blushing slightly while she tried not to stare at Naruto. Well, after talking it over, we felt that running around for so long with one eye open and half-empty stomachs wasn't for us anymore, and thought that perhaps being part of Konoha's forces wouldn't be so bad, answered Zabuza with Haku nodding. What about Mist? Rumor has it, you tried to oust the Mizukage, and wanted to take over in his place without the needless killing of those with bloodlines, questioned Anko with Zabuza shrugging. At one point I did, but as strong as I am right now, I'm not cage material, or even at the level of cage so someone could easily take me out. Besides, I know the current leader of the rebels in Water Country is way stronger than me, and she's more suited to leading Mist once Yagura is taken down, answered Zabuza with Naruto thinking things over in his head. Perhaps Konoha can work something out in aiding the rebels so you can participate in the war and help this individual take over as the new Mizukage? Questioned Naruto with Zabuza nodding in agreement since that would work. That is if the current Hokage will accept us. Haku won't have a problem since she isn't an official shinobi and her bloodline is something to behold too, replied Zabuza with Haku blushing slightly, as all eyes looked at her, and dared not look Naruto in the eyes. I can vouch for Haku-san on that last part. Her manipulating of water and turning it into ice is very impressive. It's quite similar to the second Hokage's own water manipulating abilities, replied Shino, knowing that having the support of one of the clan heirs of a well-respected clan like the Aburame clan would go a long way. The current Hokage is my godmother, so vouching for you with Shino's help shouldn't make things too difficult. However, I should warn you that the last Uchiha will no doubt set his sights on Haku, and use his clan status to arrange some kind of marriage between the two. As it stands, I can offer Haku protection under my clan, and even stay with me until she finds a suitable home for herself. But the same cannot be said for you Zabuza, since the protection clause only applies to those with bloodlines, since Konoha loves them just as much as Mist hates them with a passion, added Naruto with Haku looking at the man who trained and raised her since finding her eating scraps out of the garbage. I can live with that. Besides, Haku needs to start her own life, and can't always follow me around like a servant or something else, answered Zabuza much to Haku's shock. But Zabuza-sama, I protested Haku, but Zabuza shook his head, and looked at the girl right in the eyes. I know I called you a tool in the past Haku, and for a while I believed it was the truth. It's not. The truth is, I've come to see you as the daughter I always wanted. If you don't use this chance to be dependent on yourself, chances are you'll never be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and we both know I won't live forever. What will happen when I'm dead? You have to live your life away from my influence, and being with the Gaki here is the way to do it. Even if we don't live under the same roof, it doesn't mean we still can't work together on missions when needed, said Zabuza with Haku nodding before she hugged him and the man sighed. Thank you Zabuza-sama, replied Haku with a smile and tears running down her face. Yeah, I know. Okay, enough of the mushy stuff Haku. I have a reputation to uphold, exclaimed Zabuza while prying the girl off. I believe this is what Kiba often refers to as blackmail material, correct? Questioned Shino to Naruto in a whispered tone. Yes it is. Just be sure to know when to use it when the time is right, replied Naruto in an equally whispered tone. I heard that, exclaimed Zabuza while glaring at the 2 genin. All right, time to go home to Konoha. Say Naruto, is it safe for all of us to go through that garganta thing you can do? Questioned Anko with Naruto nodding. It is. I could have done back in Konoha to get to Wave Country, but I think the old man here would have had a heart attack, and I'm not really sure how they will feel about it, answered Naruto while pointing to the 2 new additions to the group. I'm not that old, mumbled Tazuna with everyone giving him a pointed look that said, yes you are. Before focusing back to the means of getting to Konoha. What is this garganta? I've never heard of it, questioned Zabuza with Naruto smirking at him, and then the boy looked at Anko currently smirking too. You could say it's new, but it is reliable. Though I should warn you, it can be a bit scary to first-timers, answered Naruto with a grin with Anko smirking and trying to hold back her laughter since she knew what he was referring to regarding the means of transport. Hell, she damn near pissed her panties when she chose to wear them, the one time that Naruto used it to get the 2 of them over to the Namikaze estates so his parents could look over the curse seal on the back of her neck. It had been shortly after his parents had been brought back to life and Tsunade had been put into office as the new Hokage. The boy's godmother had been going over things about the village's state of affairs when it was run by her former sensei and came across Orochimaru's history in trying to make the curse seal, with Anko being the only survivor of the very first prototype. The curse seal wasn't active, but the mark itself combined with the woman's history with Orochimaru, and why she left with no memory of past events leading up to her leaving him had left the village despising the special Jounin now turned Jounin sensei almost as much as they had hated Naruto. The female Hokage had summoned Anko to her office shortly before summoning Naruto and told him about the situation regarding the curse seal. Tsunade figured that if anyone could provide a way out for Anko in getting the snake child loving, in a bad kind of way, mark off of her, it would be Naruto, his father, and his mother too, since all three of them were basically seal masters of the highest level. Sure enough, the three Arankars of the Namikaze household had figured out what to do with Anko's curse seal, and determined that the curse seal had Orochimaru's chakra mixed with a portion of his very soul in it to allow the snake to leap from body to body when needed. They were able to purge Orochimaru's curse seal from her body using one of the various Uzumaki clan seals held within the vault of the Namikaze estates that was designed to remove any form of corrupted chakra from the chakra network without killing the person wearing it, which was soon followed by Naruto devouring that part of Orochimaru's soul, and incidentally unlocking the woman's past memories of how she escaped her former teacher's hold. As it turned out, Orochimaru did not abandon her, but rather Anko had denounced him, and refused to follow through with his twisted plans. The Sannin altered her memory of the events into making Anko believe otherwise, and from that moment on a great weight had been lifted off the special Jounin's shoulders. It was actually through this initial course of action that led Anko to becoming Naruto's Jounin sensei when the genin teams were being formed, and agreed almost instantly when Tsunade made the offer to her first before anyone else. In fact, Anko has nearly screamed out, yes, the moment she heard Naruto's name right off the bat, and promised to teach whoever she had to so long as Naruto was on the team. "We can take it," spoke Zabuza confidently with Haku nodding. "Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you," replied Naruto before he focused on opening the garganta behind Zabuza and Haku, with the result being a disturbingly high shriek of the girlishly high proportions being heard for miles. And yet the most disturbing thing about this girly shriek made for all to hear was that it did not come from Haku. That was very unmanly, thought Shino with a raised eyebrow. "Okay, wish I hadn't heard or seen that," remarked Naruto with Zabuza hyperventilating at the sight of the dark hole that seemed to tear open behind him. "If we live through this thing, I'm going to kick you in the balls," whispered Haku while Zabuza hoped she was talking to Naruto. Though deep down he knew that wasn't the case. Konoha Hokage Tower sometime later. "You know I'll never get used to seeing that," remarked Tsunade with seeing the garganta had closed to reveal most of Genin Team 7, Kurenai no longer in the disguise of being one Haruno Sakura, and was shocked to see Zabuza along with Haku heaving on the floor. "No doubt, since it's fairly new in being used by me," replied Naruto with his godmother now looking at Zabuza and Haku. "Not only that, but you even brought one missing nin from Mist and his subordinate to my doorstep?" questioned Tsunade with Naruto nodding. "Yes, though they wish to join Konoha. Zabuza is the only one classified as a shinobi," said Naruto before explaining what he knew about Zabuza's relationship with Haku and how she came into his service before adding what the two want in exchange for joining Konoha. "I see. Well, that helps clear things up. I never understood the Mizukage's reasons for the bloodline purges, nor did I approve of them. Not only that, but Haku here has a bloodline that is damn near related to my great-uncle, and could possibly be on par with his skills," replied Tsunade, as she saw hope in Haku's eyes of living a happy life, and saw the girl step forward before bowing. "I would be honored to fight for you, Hokage-sama. I also have experience in the medical arts too and have used herbs to heal Zabuza-sama's wounds after a battle," stated Haku, as she hoped her credentials were enough to qualify in being a Konoha shinobi, and learn how to improve her own skills. "And I would love for you to fight for me. The problem is complicated because of the damn councils. Or rather, the civilian council will be a problem since they seem to have it in their heads that they have a say in shinobi affairs, and with the fire daimyo giving them his unofficial backing will cause bumps in the road for you joining our ranks." "Both of you," replied Tsunade with Zabuza raising an eyebrow at her. "Seriously? Civilians have a say in shinobi affairs? That's like having a peasant farmer have a say on how a samurai should act. It makes no sense. Why is the fire daimyo even supporting them? Has the guy lost his fucking mind or something?" asked Zabuza with Tsunade sighing. "Sadly, number It's because the civilian council doesn't like Naruto, and by that extension the same is said about the fire daimyo. In fact, the daimyo didn't like Naruto before when my godson was a Jinchuriki, and will no doubt try to make things hard for you two to live in Konoha. Haku will have better odds on account of her bloodline, but the civilian council will bitch to me about her being the Uchiha's wife, and get the daimyo's backing on the matter, replied Tsunade with Naruto scowling. Not while I'm alive, he not. Haku is under the protection of my clan, and no bastard for a feudal lord is going to make her become some Uchiha's submissive housewife he can use just for the purpose of having offspring. Sasuke is a prick and insane in the head, with his only reason for passing being the fire daimyo, exclaimed Naruto furiously with his power spiking, and could sense Zabuza was doing the same. This Uchiha brat won't get within 500 yards of Haku while I can still swing my sword and my arms, Hokage-sama. So you better tell those council members and the fire daimyo to take such an idea should they voice it to shut their fucking mouths on the subject, said Zabuza while Tsunade sighed, knowing this was going to cause headaches. I know. For now, Haku will be staying at the Namikaze estates with Naruto, as per the rules of someone being under the protection of a clan. But you Zabuza need to have a chat with me, and a few others about Mist, since you want to help the rebels in their fight against the Mizukage, stated Tsunade with the two nodding. There is also one more piece of business, Hokage-sama, added Anko before she looked at Kurenai, who sighed behind her Sakura disguise, and then dispelled the genjutsu to reveal herself to the Hokage. I knew it. I sensed something was off with you from the moment when I first fought this group, exclaimed Zabuza while seeing Tsunade glaring at Kurenai. You have some serious explaining to do, Jounin Yuhi Kurenai, and depending on what I hear from you will decide on whether or not your career as a shinobi is over. At the very least, you will be demoted back down to Chunin, or maybe even down to Genin if I find ending your career to be too merciful, stated Tsunade with the woman going pale in the face. A Genin? At her age? It would be humiliating, degrading. She'd never be able to walk through the streets of Konoha with her head held high again. I cannot explain my actions, Hokage-sama. I was at fault from the start when accepting Genin Haruno Sakura's offer to secretly take her place in disguise on the mission to Wave Country, replied Kurenai with Tsunade narrowing her eyes. Actually, it's both of your faults, and make no mistake, Sakura will be punished after I am done with you. Now why did you accept her offer? Questioned Tsunade with Kurenai getting nervous, knowing her answer would be the end of her career. She wanted to kill Naruto in secret, Hokage-sama, answered Anko for her friend with Tsunade's eyes widening in shock before narrowing dangerously. I see. I think I know why that is, since it has something to do with my godson having those 3 arranged marriages, with one of them being Hyuga Hinata. Your former charge, correct? Deduced Tsunade with Kurenai reluctantly nodding. She planned to get close to him after careful observations were made and would then strike when a moment presented itself, added Anko with Naruto scoffing. Even if she did make an attempt to strike me down, my hero prevents such attempts on my life to be fruitless, and just result in her weapon breaking, stated Naruto with Zabuza nodding, since he had seen that skill in action. The fact she was planning to make an attempt on your life alone is treasonous, since you are a shinobi of Konoha, not to mention the only male Uzumaki in the village. You are also technically the last Namikaze too on account of your parents being dead, but that's beside the point, and how to punish Kurenai will be addressed now, stated Tsunade while she glared at Kurenai. I will accept any punishment you give me, Hokage-sama. Even death, replied Kurenai with Tsunade glaring at the woman. Death is too merciful for you, Kurenai. You interfered on a mission, attempted to kill a Konoha shinobi, the last of 2 clans, and my godson of all people, just to preserve the image of a shy Hyuga girl you didn't want to see grow up. It's inexcusable, and you will be punished in the harshest way I know how, said Tsunade with Kurenai nodding while at least mentally sighing in relief at not dying. I understand, Hokage-sama, stated Kurenai while awaiting sentence. Yuhi Kurenai, for your actions against Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, I hereby order your shinobi license be revoked in its entirety, and sentence you to living the rest of your life as the servant of the shinobi you tried to kill. You will be given a seal that binds you to the clan, Naruto, and his family, while still keeping your abilities as a shinobi to further defend the family from harm, commanded Tsunade with Kurenai looking like she had just been told that the Kyuubi had somehow manifested itself and was being offered as a sacrifice to the Biju. Wow, That's harsh, mumbles Zabuza with Kurenai looking ready to faint. How deliciously evil. I could get Kurenai a maid outfit and convince Naruto to have her wear it, thought Anko while perverted ideas ran through her head and planned to make things more exciting around the Namikaze home. When you aren't taking orders from Naruto, his parents can in his place, but you will ultimately answer to him, and him alone. His wives will have the power to order you around too, but they can't give you orders that will supersede his own, added Tsunade with Kurenai struggling to stand. This can't be happening, thought Kurenai before she looked behind her at Naruto and saw his eyes looking direct at her. All they revealed to Kurenai was that the now former Kunoichi was going to have one hell of a job keeping that boy happy while under his employ.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.